your engines.
Well, good morning. It's Sunday morning here at Surfers Paradise.
But by now the weather had cleared and the teams went back to slicks. Then another storm. Surfers Paradise, it certainly wasn't. Frustrating for the drivers, the teams and the fans, although it didn't seem to spoil the party for everybody. Finally, after a delay of almost an hour and a half, the Indycars were rolling again. The chief steward declared a wet start, with all competitors on rain tyres. In the race at Surfers a year ago, Mansell, remember, showed his inexperience of rolling starts and lost 3 places on the first lap. This time he was determined not to be jumped, but as a result, there was more confusion. Our commentators are Guy Hobbs and Bob Jenkins.
And the green flag is out. Here we go. The race is finally on. No, we are yellow.
Yellow flag. The start was waved off. It looked like Nigel Mansell had too much of a lead on Michael Andretti as they came over the start-finish line, and they decided that it wasn't clean enough for a start. Now, we had some controversy last year with the start in Detroit, where Emerson Fittipaldi was eventually...
Oh, and a big pileup involving, what, 5 cars?
Ribs, Robbie Buell.
Raul Boisel is involved.
That's terrible news for him.
Zampedri is there in the 50 car.
And the last car, it's not Gary Brabham, is it? No, I think that's Scott Sharp.
5 cars pile up here when the race is under caution.
You know, it looks to me... from that view that maybe Raul Boisel came out of the corner, got on the power because he thought the flag was being dropped.
Here it is again.
And let's see if we can tell you exactly what happens.
The cars were coming off the chicane onto the main straightaway, and some kind of looks like Zampedri maybe ran into the side of Boisel, spinning him around.
Chaos then on the opening lap, and there was more where that came from. 3/4 of an hour later, they lined up and tried again.
Green is out and we are finally underway. And Mansell does jump to the start as Michael Andretti falls in behind him. And the rest of the field comes through the first chicane. Let's see if there were any incidents here.
It looks like Scott Goodyear may have got hooked up just a little bit as he had the inside line on that apex, but a crowd of cars coming down on him. Fernandez already being held out. Oh, yes, we do. And guess what? We have the same cars as before. We have Raul Boisel. We also have Davy Jones in the Copenhagen AJ Foyt car. They're going to have another yellow, and they are going to get this race started.
There's Matsushita, who has been involved in that incident. And the Paul Tracy car is against the tire barrier.
Now, why is Fernandez behind Paul Tracy? Oh, Paul Fernandez, too, was involved in that incident with Paul Tracy, and that's why you don't see him in this picture here. He's dropped back, and that has allowed Emerson Fittipaldi and his teammate Alonso Jr. to go to the front, but Michael got that lead, too. And Guzman is now running in 5th with Johansson right behind him. A great start for Stefan Johansson.
Well, I am still just amazed at everything that has gone on here this afternoon. It is unbelievable.
Robbie Golden, Jack Villeneuve, Jimmy Vasser coming by there.
And there is Michael.
That start, looking back on the green flag start, it looked like Nigel, it's his right to bring the field to the green flag when he wants to. As they now come around for the first time to see that yellow caution flag. As we mentioned, Davy Jones was involved in that. Hiro Matsushita was involved in that. And I also believe that Ari Lyondike was involved.
And I thought maybe it was going to be a situation...
Oh, here they come to the pits, too. Just look at that.
And they're coming in to change tires, obviously.
Now, they had a local yellow. It's not a full course yellow flag, as far as I know.
I think maybe it is. I think I see the yellow flag waving from the starter stand. In any case, here comes the field in for a pit stop, and they're changing to the slick tires. They have had enough of the wet tires just in the first lap.
And looks like Michael's going to get out first as everybody came in. Michael is out first. And here comes Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti behind him coming in to make his stop. So these two will keep the lead. And who is that coming out? Oh, looks like Fittipaldi was able to get out ahead of Nigel Mansell.
Now here's a situation I was afraid of, that the track was blocked by that incident. There's a 17 car of Dobson who was involved in the first incident and is involved again. Boycell's car is there on the right of your screen. Let's take a look and see what happened, as once again it appears as if Sam Pedri went to the inside, hit Boycell, who in turn hit Mario Andretti, who continued. However, he was involved, and then behind a car up on another one. That is Dobson, who is up on Matsushita.
Robbie Buell was also involved in that, but Davy Jones, who we thought was involved, looked like he managed to get through cleanly and will be able to continue. Raul Boycell's got to be wondering what's happening with Dan Pedri, as he got involved with him twice now in 2 green flags up. Oh, and it looks like Paul Tracy's unable to get out of there and has not been assisted by the officials. There you see Davy Jones, who has been campaigning IMSA the last couple of years trying to win the championship. And there's the end of Hiro Matsushita's wing. Davy Jones looking for a push start. Paul Tracy's also going, where I need help, push me, get me out of here.
The Tracy incident was apart from this one here. That the Tracy incident happened further down the track, and Paul is getting no assistance, and he can only sit there helplessly as the field goes by him and the car remains stopped.
Because this will put him a lap down. He won't be able to take advantage of the yellow flag situation. He'll have to change his tires under green. But why, that you see the marshals there holding out the yellow flag and the group, but why none of them has gone to help? All he needs is a little nudge out the back and a quick push, and he'll be restarted and be fine.
Here's Bobby Rahal. Ooh, how about that?
And Bobby is not going to have anything nice to say about that. Now, that looks like it was part of that first incident, but we didn't see him involved.
Well, we did not see him, involved in the incident at all. We cannot see any damage to the car. And here is Raul Boycell's car.
These drivers now have certainly got to be anxious for a green flag and do some racing laps. As I should say, we should be going green. Field picking up pace right now. Let's see if we can actually get a full lap in here without going yellow or without a downpour of rain.
Here we go. Green flag is out, and Michael Andretti with a big jump over Emerson Fittipaldi as they head for the chicane once again. Now MO begins to close in just a little bit. Nigel Mansell runs his car up on the rumble strips. And Robbie Gordon back there in 4th position is keeping up with the 3 ahead of him.
Yeah, the lead 4, then there's a bit of a gap back to Alonso Jr. And behind Alonso Jr. comes Mauricio Gugelmin. We'll be able to see now how good that Reynard is around this street circuit. Of course, untested at this point on an oval on a super speedway, but Reynard certainly looking good. Although Emerson Fittipaldi is able to stay very close, as are Robbie Gordon and Nigel Mansell. Early stages in the first or second green flag laps we've had.
And the sun glistens brightly now off of these cars as nice weather has fallen upon us.
Look
at Robbie Gordon. He made the move, a nice move, outbreaking Nigel Mansell. And Mansell, as he did last year, falls back to 4th position here in the early going from his pole sitting position.
And Robbie Gordon made that move on what was called Mansell Corner, because that's where Nigel made all his moves last year. So a wonderful move by Robbie Gordon, although he did lock up that left front, which doesn't look like his flat spot of the tire at all, but he did lock it up for quite a little bit there. But obviously he felt he got the room, and he put a nice maneuver in. As we see a replay once again, Robbie Gordon on the inside. Nigel Mansell starts to turn in. He's on the racing line, but Gordon is already down the inside of him. Little puff of smoke from the tire, and a nice maneuver by Robbie Gordon in the Walker Motorsports number 9 Valvoline sponsored car. 25-year-old is certainly an aggressive driver.
7 of 65 laps completed. It's Michael Andretti, Fittipaldi, Robbie Gordon, Nigel Mansell, and Al Unser Jr. running in 5th position. We can add Lyondike's name to those that are officially out of the race. Besides Lyondike, It's Raul Boisel and Bobby Rahal that have dropped out of competition. Gordon continuing to hold his third position, although Nigel Mansell is right there at his rear wing. Gordon changing teams this year. He was with A.J. Foyt last year. This year running for Derek Walker and also securing the Valvoline sponsorship. Now we ride alongside Nigel Mansell as he dogs Robbie Gordon.
Yeah, that was interesting at the end of last year. Robbie Gordon was saying, well, I think I might be moving. Got some good drives lined up. And A.J. Foyt kept coming out with press releases saying that he had signed Robbie Gordon to a 3-year contract and Robbie Gordon was his.
Look out, here is a pass. Nigel comes right alongside him and tries to make the move. Boy, they're running wheel to wheel down through here. Let's see who breaks first. Mansell succeeds in making the pass.
Wow. Great pass, and there you can see how equal these cars are as they ran down that straightaway. I mean, barely a fraction of little extra speed carried out of the corner by Nigel Mansell, which allowed him to make the move. But you can see how the power and the horsepower and the pop-off valves really help to keep these cars fairly equal.
So now Mansell has moved back to third position. He started from the pole, was passed by Michael Andretti in the first lap. And then a couple of laps after that had fallen all the way back to fourth, but now he has repassed Robbie Gordon and is in third position. Watching second and third position here. Emerson Fittipaldi in the Marlboro number 2 and Nigel Mansell in the Kmart number 1. The leader of the race is Michael Andretti, and he has continued to stretch out his advantage over Emerson Fittipaldi in the last few laps. Michael Andretti took the lead before the end of the first lap and has held it all the way so far, as now Mansell begins to put a serious challenge on Emo, and he's going to get him under braking again. A nice move by Nigel Mansell, and he goes to second.
Yeah, Mansell, I think, in those few laps before that, the first 10 laps, have backed off a little bit, said, okay, I'll let the race come to me, or worry about pit stops and stuff. But every time he's gone around, he's getting radio reports at how much Michael Andretti is pulling away. And Nigel's really got the bit between his teeth now as he is able to get by Robbie Gordon, blow him away, and then come up alongside Emerson Fittipaldi and make the move at will as they go around that turn, under braking into the left-hander. And he has now firmly got his sights set on Michael Andretti, who he doesn't want to get off to a huge lead that can't be caught up later on. So Nigel Mansell once again thrilling the crowds. We mentioned it last year. He came back after 16 laps to retain the lead. This year looks like he's on a mission to do the same thing, making a move down the inside, very nice and smooth. Emo sees the move, recognizes it's being made, and stays out wide, doesn't turn in on him. Of course, Emo still wants to be there at the end when the checkered flag drops.
Didn't even smoke the tires when he made that pass. Just made a nice move to the inside, a nice smooth, clean move. And Mansell goes to second now behind Michael. Fittipaldi third, Gordon fourth, and Mauricio Gugelmin continues to run in fifth position after qualifying for the 6th, 7th spot. Here's Michael, and as you can see, he has quite a lead on Nigel. Now Mansell will try to cut into that advantage.
Quite an empty trap behind him. Of course, it's all going to change in about another 8 to 9 laps as we get the first round of pit stops underway. And that is certainly where a race can be won or lost.
And a car in the fence.
And badly damaged, and obviously a bit of a flame coming out the back. I think that's Robbie Gordon. That is Robbie Gordon in the number 9 Walker Motorsports car, and that is bad news for Robbie, who was running in the 4th spot, having just lost that position earlier to Nigel Mansell.
Here he is coming off the chicane, just getting sideways and nailing the wall, doing a half spin and nailing the wall on the right side of the car, and then a small flame breaking out of the rear of the machine, but that's nothing serious. Robbie Gordon, however, drops out of competition after contacting the wall. And now, look, there is at least Michael is within Nigel's sight, so he has cut into that lead quite considerably in the last 3-4 laps.
There's a treasure pod at the end of the rainbow as far as Nigel can see now. And a few laps ago, we couldn't even see Nigel Mansell, so he's really cutting into that lead pretty quickly and would like to get much closer before that first round of stops comes up.
Lap traffic could play a part in that. Sometimes you encounter a slower car at a point where you have to brake and get completely slowed down before you can pass him, and other times you can pass him cleanly, and so that may have contributed. But In any case, the separation between first and second is much less now as Nigel closes in or begins to close in on Michael Andretti.
See another yellow flag. Seems like they've got yellow flags out all over the place today. They're the stationary yellow flag, which means it's not a full course caution, but a local caution at that part of the track. But it seems like there's a lot of them, as now we're seeing Michael Andretti make his first pit stop. And this seems like it's fairly early to me after only 18 laps. Oh, no, it's a full course caution. Full course caution.
Indeed, and so Mansell also takes advantage of the full course caution to come in for a pit stop. First and second are in. Work being done on Michael Andretti. It's completed already. Here comes Emerson Fittipaldi in behind. Michael is rolling once again, and that advantage that he had built up is going to all go away now because the pace car is on the race course. Not surprisingly, the reason for the full course caution is to get Robbie Gordon's car off the racetrack.
Now we have another incident. That is
Smith.
Yeah. And who did he just run into?
He has had contact with somebody back in the chicane, and it has torn the right suspension off of that car.
Mark Smith, who is running in the number 15 Craftsman Tool Walker
There's
Racing.
the other car. It's Sam Pedri, who has had his problems here in his IndyCar debut. He was involved in a couple of incidents on the first lap of a couple of starts that we had, and now he has had contact with Mark Smith, and it looks like that this may be pulling off of the racetrack as the field now begins to come through the final chicane and gain a little bit of momentum toward the green flag. Michael Andretti wiping the visor. It's obviously very wet out there, and it's going to be difficult to see with the spray coming off the tires.
You see a rip-off there being floating around in the air. In fact, it looked like it ended up in the radiator vent of that one car that was coming into the picture, which is not good.
Now Nigel Mansell pulling up nearly beside Michael Andretti, so as if to indicate, here I am, and please be aware that
here I come.
Yeah, that I could very well.
Because they're on slicks.
Oh, and Mansell spins
it. And that was going to allow Emma and Faber to get by, and now he's not going to be able to spin it back around till that field goes by, so that's going to put Nigel Mansell right to the back of the pack. And a superb, huge lead for Michael Andretti.
And a very uncharacteristic move by Nigel Mansell. You just do not see that.
Well, you know what you're going to see now, though, is one heck of a charge from the back as he tries to make his way back up into that lead pack. And now Michael Andretti will see as he gets sideways, he's going to clip the wall too, and he hasn't damaged the car, but he has put the tires out in the middle of the track, and he is able to keep going. He's going to lose a lot of time.
And Emmo is having some trouble keeping control. It is very slick out there, and everybody would be wise just to hold their position, go as slowly as they can.
Oh, we got an incident at the back there too. I think someone made contact with those tires. That is Gugelman and Paul Tracy back there. Now, it stopped raining too.
But still, it's slick out there. So is Michael going to come in for a stop, and are all these guys going to come in for a stop? Positions are being changed back here. Under the wet conditions, Emmo has second position
from Mario.
But Mario now has moved up into third, and he may get second here as he tries to pass Emmo, and does. So,
and here's the water part of the track there. So it suddenly gets slippery again.
Spin.
And that is, I can't quite figure out the number on that.
It's Groff.
There's Mike Groff in the number 10. The Motorola-sponsored Honda entry, the Rahal Hogan team. The only hope for Honda left in this event, as Bobby Rahal went out in that very first lap. I don't think he's done any damage to the car. Should be able to spin that back around and get back out onto the track. There you see Paul Tracy at the back of the pack, who was on. Paul Tracy went on to the wet weather tires.
And here is Nigel as he tries to get some help from the corner workers to get him turned around and going again.
Yeah, he must have stalled that engine. Otherwise, once the field went by, he would have just dropped the clutch and done a quick 180 and got back underway. But obviously, they're having trouble turning it around too.
Yeah, they are.
He wants to go, saying, take me further back.
Nigel's very frustrated. Here's what happened. Coming off the final corner onto the straightaway to take the green flag, Mansell just on the power too hard and sliding the car sideways.
You see him turn into it and try and correct it. He locked him up a little bit, then he lets go of the brakes to try and get it back around.
And that's Emerson Fittipaldi, who's trying to decide which way he should go to avoid Nigel, and he chooses the right way. There's no contact between the two.
Now that safety team is really, they should pull Nigel back all the way, let him turn around and get back on the way. They're leaving a little bit of room for the field to come through, and here we see once again Michael Andretti, as he gets sideways, makes contact with the safety tires, which means he doesn't do any damage to his car, which is quite fortunate for him. But it leaves the tires in the middle of the track, which later on Mike Groff and another one of the drivers collected and caused a little bit of damage to their car.
Well, through all of this, Michael maintains the lead, does not come in to change tires. Emo has gotten second place back from Mario Andretti, so it's Fittipaldi second now and Mario in third spot.
And we also have a full course caution as the pace car is back out, picking up our leaders, Michael Andretti. And as you say, Emerson Fittipaldi and Mario in third spot. Here's a look
from the in-car camera.
There you hear him shut it down.
You can see the frustration.
And then he has to sit and wait. Now he must...
Keeping the revs up on the car, trying to keep the engine going.
That's not a position like to be in either. Sitting there looking at oncoming traffic in the slippery part of the track with everybody on slick.
And then he lets down the clutch and it dies.
Yeah, as he tries to do the 180, he loses the motor, unable to restart it, and then he's looking for a push, and it just took him a long time. And I think Nigel may have lost a lap by now to the field.
Well, let's check the standings and another car. Here's Adrian Fernandez, who is going the wrong way on the track, actually stopped at this point. It's Mario, Fittipaldi, Mario, Fabi, and Vassar, the top five. Michael Andretti is the leader. And Alonso Jr. is in for a pit stop. Notice that he's changed to the wet tires.
Now they must know something we don't know as far as the weather to come, that there may be more showers to come.
Here's how Mario got second position from Fittipaldi for a while. Nice move by the veteran Mario Andretti. And then the spin by Mike Groff. Well, Nigel is running once again after having spun and lost second position. He's got a lot of cars now between himself and the leader, and I'm not sure whether he lost a lap or not.
I believe he did, and you can also see from that shot there from on board of Nigel Mansell just how low the sun is.
Well, Michael is getting set to step on the gas once again and resume competition. Emerson Fittipaldi is right behind him, and his dad is running in third spot, Mario. Here they come off the chicane and on the main straightaway.
You see how early Michael started to get the power down? Look, he's going to get past the pace car before they get to the start-finish line. Michael making a real go for it on the restart. He's done well so far and was able to put the gap between himself and Nigel earlier on the restart. And now he's going to try it again with Emerson and Mario, of course, right over the back door of Emerson Fittipaldi.
Mario having a good race. He won at Phoenix last year, breaking a long winless streak.
I wonder if Mario was to win this race. He would have won races on almost every continent, as well as winning almost every single form of motorsports that there are, including Formula One. He and the man in front of him, two of only three people in the world to win both the Formula One World Championship and the Indycar Championship. That's the third guy we're referring to, Nigel Mansell. Nigel, of course, the only person who have done it in back-to-back seasons. The field comes around. That hat or debris or paper, whatever, it still didn't come off the Johansson car.
No, it's still on the front wing. Oh, we also see that Mike Groff is running, and he was another one of those spinners during our shower, but he's running in.
Heavy brake locking up there by Michael Andretti. Don't want to wear those tires out too quickly. Reynard certainly looks very nice. As far as preparation, they have a look at the top 5 after 29 of the 65 laps.
Mario is looking very racy, guy. He's staying right with Emo, and in fact, we may see a passing attempt here soon.
Mario, I think, just trying to find out where he is quicker on the track and where that move can be made. May have to fill it out for a couple more laps before he actually does anything. Mario, of course, even though he talks about retiring. Ooh, and there's Nigel, who...
Well, that's the second spin by Mansell. That came as he was trying to move his way through the traffic after having been put to the rear of the field because of a previous spin.
Yeah, he did that under braking, didn't lose control, but locked it up, went straight on, amazingly, didn't make contact with anybody else, then tried to do the 180 again, but then stalled the engine again, and now is back out underway and has got a lot of work cut out in front of him. But early on, we're only 29 laps into the 65-lap event.
Yeah, but he's certainly not having the race that he had hoped to have. And from the onboard camera, let's see, it simply happened under braking. He got to the inside of that car and hit the brakes. It was not on the right line.
Got to the inside of Willie T. Ribbs. He did a beautiful job of spinning it around, but unfortunately, he must be having maybe a transmission problem or possibly some kind of clutch problem. Maybe he hasn't got first gear because there's twice now he's stalled it trying to get going, and he was able to turn it around no problem. So maybe Nigel is having some kind of problem with his transmission, which is talked about earlier over the weekend.
Here's Michael Andretti continuing to lead now. He has 27 victories, and his last one came at Laguna Seca in the final race of the night.
A couple of spinners in a nasty spot too around the blind corner. Willie T. Ribbs and Adrian Fernandez. And there comes our leader, Michael Andretti, around the problem, I believe. Look at the yellow flags out, of course, quickly on that situation. Willie T. Ribbs, who was as high as 4th at one point, then made a pit stop. And then saw Nigel Mansell. See, now Willie gets it sideways. Fernandez reacts and gets it sideways too. A little bit of synchronized swimming there. And you see Willie giving it a pull.
And you know what? I bet this brings out a full course caution. Fernandez is rolling, but I don't think that Willie T's car is going to be able to go. It appears to be high centered. There's Willie T, who was out of the car and obviously okay out of the race. Disappointed, but okay, as Fernandez has his car rolling again, but I'm not sure that Willie's is going to be able to move, and it's in a very precarious spot, and so we might look for the possibility of a full course caution.
There you see Michael coming up behind Fernandez. Obviously no damage to Fernandez's car. Oh, he nips down the inside, and that would seem like a last-minute desperation move, but he's put a bit of a gap between himself and Emerson Fittipaldi. He's achieved exactly what he wanted to do. But it seemed like quite a daring move, and of course that's what Michael Andretti is famous for.
Jimmy Vasser has moved up into 4th position, and Stefan Johansson is in 5th. And obviously no full course caution. That's good because we can stay racing. But now the interesting thing to me is that it would appear as if the leader interval is shrinking as Emerson Fittipaldi is closing in just a little bit.
And we are not going to get a full course caution. We have the yellow flag waving and a white flag with it, which means that a vehicle, emergency vehicle out on the track. That emergency vehicle, just then as they went by, as the leaders went by, seemed like it was parked in an incredibly nasty spot. But they know what they're doing, and they've got it all under control. Michael Andretti, as you say, it looks like Emma has managed to pull off Mario a little bit, and we are now on lap 35 of 65. If this keeps up, we're going to need a fuel stop and a tire change coming up fairly shortly. I'll tell you, some of the drivers that are running with the tinted visors too, because the cameras make it look a lot lighter than it really is by allowing a lot more light into the picture. I think some of the guys who do colored visors may have to switch to the plain ones, because the sun is very low in the sky right now.
And Andretti continues to drive his car over the rumble strips and through the chicanes. But he is maintaining the lead and getting everything out of that car that he can possibly get. Oh, and a crash here. Jacques Villeneuve involved. And Villeneuve goes down the escape road, gets the car stopped before hitting those tire barriers down there, but it's going to be an exit for Villeneuve.
And he was having a good run. You can see how mad he is, by the way. He throws the steering wheel there. He was having a fairly good run. And he got together with Johansson. I think he's caused some damage, or some damage has been done to the Johansson car. And Johansson was running up in fourth spot, I believe, when that took place. So very disappointing day for the Bettenhausen team with Stefan Johansson and his new sponsor. Here is a replay. Yeah, look at that. Johansson just kind of squeezed him out. He went out, made contact. I can't tell from there if it did damage Stefan Johansson's car, the Swedish driver getting together with the Canadian. And disappointing start to the season for Villeneuve, who was running so well in that car. There you see...
That's Fernandez,
yeah,
who is missing a right front tire. He's down to the rim trying to make it back to the pit area. Fernandez started this race in fourth position and had moved to the top 5 at one point. This is going to set him back considerably.
Nigel goes down the inside of Scott Goodyear in the number 40 King Motorsports entry and is able to make that move.
He's in 10th position.
And working hard to get points this season, because only just over halfway through this race, and Nigel could still win it. I mean, things we've seen today, anything could happen.
Nothing is impossible, at least with Nigel and here, because we have seen just about everything you can imagine in this race so far.
Now he's right up underneath the wing of the Brazilian Mauricio Guzman in the number 88, which is basically a team car to Michael Andretti, who is leading.
Fernandez smoked the tires there again. I thought he was going to crash, but didn't. Scared me.
And there's Mike Groff locking him up again. And Nigel comes down the inside of Mauricio Guzman to pick up that position too. So a nice overtaking maneuver there. He also locked them up a little bit. Nothing too serious. Really, unless there's flames coming out the back of the tires and about 30 feet of smoke, then it's not too serious as far as Nigel's concerned.
Mansell will give it everything he's got, regardless of where he's running and regardless of whether he's in contention or just battling for another spot.
Looks like he's going to be able to out-drag Mike Groff down on this long run and get him too under a braking maneuver.
But
and Groff gets together with Fabi. Now Nigel runs, just gently taps the back of Fabi. Shouldn't have done any damage, but boy, oh boy, now we see Groff pull off.
He's got some damage there on the front of the car.
Wow, I mean, what a race today. We've seen pushing and nudging and getting together in wet and dry conditions. Just incredible.
And besides that, we started off with a 2-hour delay because of rain. Here it is once again. Now that's Groff moving alongside Fabi, making contact with him, getting the car sideways, and Nigel has to slam on the brakes. And I don't know whether he had contact with the back of Fabi's car or not. I don't believe he did, but boy, it was close.
Groff did a great job too of getting it all locked up and smoke coming out of everywhere, but then right just before the corner, before it was too late to make the turn, he let off the brakes, turned in and got around the turn successfully and is able to continue, although it's obviously costing a lot of time and a lot of tire wear.
Here's the out-of-race list, and it continues to grow. Ray Hall and Boycell were the first out. Lyondike followed. Robbie Gordon crashed. So did Mark Smith. Zampedri crashed. And Jacques Villeneuve is the most recent to drop out of competition. He, too, in a crash. And here is Nigel going to the inside of Teo Fabi and passing him. Fabi is in his backup car. Remember, he crashed here yesterday afternoon and destroyed his primary car. They've been doing an extensive amount of testing in preseason at Big Springs, Texas, and they have been doing so at record speed. But it did not carry over here at Surfers Paradise, as Fabi has had some problems during the weekend. Started this race in 11th position.
And look at the distance Nigel's been able to put between himself and Fabi already. And how many times have we seen that? The picture of Nigel, this picture right here, going down the inside on a left-hander, locking up that left front. How many times in this race, this year and last year, have we seen that? It's just phenomenal how he's able to just continually play that same maneuver over and over again, and it works every single time for him.
And there is the separation between first and second, and now second and third. As you saw, Michael Andretti with nearly a full straightaway, front straightaway lead over this car. Emerson Fittipaldi, the Marlboro Penske number 2, and the number 6 Kmart Texaco Haviland, driven by Mario Andretti. 7 cars on the lead lap. So Nigel is a lap down, and he's going to have a very difficult time gaining that lap back.
Yeah, I don't think he'll gain a lap back, but he can gain some positions, and of course you still get points even if you finish a lap down. You still get the same amount of the points you would have done if you weren't a lap down. In his case now of running the last 20 or so laps till the end to pick up as many points as he can. This camera with the light that it's letting in, it really doesn't let you know, but it is getting dark there. There's a serious running into some serious shadows on some parts of the track. And visibility is getting to a minimum at this point with the oil and everything else on the visor. They've used all their rip-offs because of the rain earlier. And visibility is really getting to be a tough problem, I should imagine.
A great battle for second place between the two veterans, and as the light fails, a real struggle for all the drivers to finish before dark.
Return to the Indycar series in fine form. He started on the outside of row 1. He's been quick in practice, quick in testing, quick in qualifying, and now quick in the race. Nigel Mansell makes his pit stop as 5th place driver. Stefan Johansson also makes his pit stop, changing for tires and taking on a whole load of fuel. And they should get that done in about 15 seconds as 6 men go over the wall, and then they'll have a last dash now to the finish with about 20 odd laps remaining.
And this should be the final pit stop of the day. They should be able to go the rest of the way on the fuel and the tires. And still, Nigel is lighting them up as he goes into the chicanes. Now Michael Andretti comes on to pit road. The leader of the race gives up his top spot to come in for what should be his final pit stop of the afternoon, bringing the car to a stop here and the pit crew going to work. So the lead now belongs to Emerson Fittipaldi, and Mario Andretti has moved to 2nd position. However, Emo should be, in fact he is right now, coming in for his final pit stop of the day. So Emerson Fittipaldi gives up 2nd spot to come in.
As crew chief Rick Rinneman gets ready to greet him, and the rest of the Penske crew, 6 men over the wall. See how quickly they get this done there. You see him wiping his visor. He's going to need a rag or something to really get that clean. He's got something on there that's bugging him. It probably is a bug, in fact.
Waiting for the fuel to go in. The tank is full. Good stop, and Emerson Fittipaldi is back in action. So now Mario picks up the lead of the race. So Emo got out ahead of Michael. So Fittipaldi is, or will be, when everyone makes his pit stop, the lead of the race, or will he? Here's Michael making the move, and he got him.
Yeah, because Emo, of course, coming out on the cold tires once again. Michael's already got 1 lap into his and some heat in his. Now is how quickly can he pull away, or how much can Emo stay with him, because he's got those colder tires and he needs to really push it to stay with him. Doesn't want to lose contact right away. Scott Goodyear, too, all over the back of Emerson Fittipaldi.
So Michael Andretti has had his final pit stop. Father Mario, I believe, is still the leader of the race because he has not made his pit stop. But when he does and all shakes out, everybody has made their stops, it will be Michael back in the lead. And he appears to be pulling away from Emo. Scott Goodyear is staying right with Emerson Fittipaldi in the Budweiser car. Goodyear, who is driving for Kenny Bernstein, as we said, has not been particularly happy with the way his car has performed all weekend. He was complaining after the first and second days of qualifications that the car was just getting no grip whatsoever. It's performing fairly well here, at least in these last laps of this race. There is Mario Andretti, and once again that shows you how far Andretti is back of Emo in third place.
Of course, Mario's now made his pit stop and charging him down for that position. One thing, or one person, two people, in fact, we've really not seen any of today. Al Unser Jr., who qualified well and immediately went back to the back of the pack. And also Paul Tracy, who after making having that problem early on when he went into the tire wall, has been running. The car wasn't damaged. He's been running ever since, but we've really not seen him at all day.
You can see how dark it is getting here, as even the small lights in the cockpit are very, very visible now. And unless a car is out in the open, not behind these high-rise buildings, it's almost difficult to see them.
Well, that camera gives you a real idea, because the cameras we're looking through right now allow more light into the picture and give you kind of a false image of how bright it is. But as you saw from that onboard camera, where that light is not allowed in, how dark it is. And of course the street lights were all on, and the neon bar sign lights were all going on and getting ready for service.
And Guy, we're getting the word that the race is going to be red flagged on lap number 55 because of darkness.
Oh, well.
So something that you speculated on at the very early stages of our broadcast here this afternoon. It was raining so hard and they delayed getting this race started at all, is indeed coming true. It is just getting too dark for the drivers to see well enough to continue in competition. So this race is going to be red flagged, we understand, on lap number 55, which should be coming up before too long. The interval has shrunk considerably between first and second, and Emerson Fittipaldi is not out of this race by any means.
I tell you what, Emo is also wearing the clear visor. And I believe Michael has got the dark visor, and as much as they're not that much difference between the two of them, it could be enough to make Michael's vision very hard. That's a good view of how dark it really is.
Well, Michael continues to lead the race, and it will be halted 10 laps short of its scheduled distance because of darkness, and so Michael only has a few more laps to hang on.
Oh, look how close Emma is, and Fabi is holding up Michael.
Yes, indeed.
Terribly.
We could have a race after all. Michael just cannot seem to get around Teo Fabi, and while he is having difficulty doing so, there he does. And now he puts Fabi between himself and Emerson Fittipaldi, so that could play to Michael's advantage. Emo getting the car sideways coming off the corner, and we are in the final lap of the race.
Now, see, at this point, Fabi should move over and just let these guys have a race for the finish, and really let them have a good go and put on a good show for the crowd that's waited patiently for 4 hours to have this event. Move over and let them have a good battle for the last 2.79 miles. It really could be a great finish. Just to finish that point I was making before, I'm sure some of the drivers radioed in to the crew chiefs and said, hey, we can't see out here. Speak to the officials and see if you can get this thing shortened. Emo would love about another 2 laps. Michael definitely wants it to end right now.
A good battle to the finish here between Michael Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi.
Can Michael hang on? It certainly would be a great return to the series for him and a great debut for the Reynard. Adrian Reynard would be ecstatic. As I said earlier, they've won in every form of motorsports they've been in before, and they're out to win the 1994 PPG World Series. Getting awfully close. He's going to get a checkered flag this time round. Not
there it is.
Enough.
Yep. Michael Andretti wins the Australian Grand Prix Indycar race. Emerson Fittipaldi finishes in second position, and Mario Andretti is going to be with his son on the podium, finishing in third. And there's a celebration of the Chip Ganassi.
Start your engines.
Well, hello there, talking to you from Long Beach, round 3 of the Indycar World Series, and it's going to be an exciting event.
Hi, I'm Nicky Horn. The Long Beach Circuit, 105 laps, an 8-turn street track. And a large Californian crowd have turned out to see and be seen. This is the Monaco of the IndyCar Tour. In last year's race, Nigel had his problems. Numbed by painkillers after his Phoenix practice crash, he competed against medical advice and still posted the fastest lap in qualifying. Quite an achievement. This race, notorious for incidents last year, and little Al won't have forgotten his tumble with Nigel, which put him out of the race. The star of the 1993 race was 25-year-old Paul Tracy. He posted his first IndyCar win here and continues in that vein once more with pole position, breaking Nigel's lap record in doing so. James Allen asked him what he thought of his chances this year.
I feel, we just need to get a good start. Hopefully we can get into the lead and just settle into a pace and see what happens.
Well, you were running good at Phoenix, of course, started from pole position. It was all looking very nice for you. And then you got involved in that accident.
Well, it's going to be tough. That was a tough situation. A lot of cars on the track, and we have 30 cars in the field here, and it's on a 1.7-mile track. So we'll be hitting traffic pretty soon. So it's going to be a tough race. It's a long race, and a lot of traffic to deal with.
But of course, you've got a new car since that accident.
Yeah, we had a brand new tub sent over, and we had some teething problems with it on Friday during practice and qualifying. But the crew did a great job in getting it prepared for me, ready for qualifying, and it couldn't be a better day for Penske Racing.
Second on the grid is Al Unser Jr., a 4-time winner on the Long Beach streets, and he'll be hoping for a 5th win today to make up for last year's disappointment. The third member of the Penske Dream Team, 47-year-old Emerson Fittipaldi, qualifies in 3rd position. So far in the championship, he is Mr. Consistency. With the 2nd place at Surfers and this win last week at Phoenix, he currently leads in the PPG Cup points. Nigel had qualified 4th, just 0.3 seconds slower than the Penskes. He'll be hoping for better pit stops than last week, when he stalled at the 1st and was lucky to emerge unscathed and unfined at the exit on the 2nd. 12 months ago, Robbie Gordon was disqualified, fined $5,000 and put on probation for 1 year after last year's race. He's improved in practice this year and starts from the 3rd row of the grid alongside Michael Andretti, who was involved in the 2nd major shunt at Phoenix last weekend. Amazingly, no one was seriously hurt in either accident, although 4 spectators were slightly injured. It's a Penske 1-2-3 at the top of the pack as we join our race commentators Paul Page, Sam Posey and Bobby Unser.
They give it to Green. They give it to Green. It surprises me, but they give it to Green. The rest of the field struggling off of that hairpin turn as they battle down into the corner. Penske cars maintain their position, but they come 3 abreast. Everybody's through the first 2 corners safely.
Well, that had to be one of the worst starts I think I've ever seen IndyCar racing. Flagman should have brought them around another time. They weren't lined up at all.
Looks like only the Penske cars were aligned. It's now Tracy, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi. Nigel Mansell pursues from 4th place.
In qualifying, the 3 Penske cars qualified within 1/10 of a second of each other. It explains why they're running so close right now.
Paul Tracy still running at the front of the field. Will he lead the first lap? Will he win another race here? He scored his first IndyCar victory at this track. Paul Tracy, the number 3 Penske car. Al Unser Jr., the 31 car with a black rollover bar. And, of course, there is Fittipaldi, the number 2 car, black number 2.
Penske scored his first win ever here last year as a team, having been shut out through all the Andretti and Unser years. Now he's come back with a vengeance with a car that is really handling beautifully here.
Well, you know, Sam and Paul, there's one thing safe to assume, and that Penske has told his drivers, don't wreck into each other. Race, but save the really hard racing till right to the end of the race.
This is the fight for 4th place as Robbie Gordon is closing on Nigel Mansell. Battle for fourth.
The interesting thing is to see Mansell, who had the pole here last year, of course, in eclipse this year. Fourth fastest only in qualifying, not a threat, at least at this point in the race.
Mario Andretti closing on this battle as well. He is car number 6, just behind Robbie Gordon.
You know, Robbie Gordon has really set his sights on emulating Nigel Mansell. As Gordon matured in racing, it was Mansell who was achieving everything last year. So this means a lot for him to have Mansell in his sights right now.
On board with Robbie Gordon now. 2 laps are complete as they flash over the start-finish line. Here's through turn 1 and 2. And down, swing far to the left, another right-hander.
They don't do much shifting here. They come up from second gear to third to fourth. They hit fifth as they accelerate through these very fast sweepers out onto the back stretch.
A very fast back straightaway right here, down into turn. We're another good place to pass.
We'll keep track of this car. Bobby Rahal. The corner workers are reporting that there's a fire in the left rear of his car. Now there's more than a fire. At least there's a lot of smoke.
That's that Honda engine car, and it is in trouble now.
Well, it's either going to be an engine or it's going to be some fiberglass, or not fiberglass, but carbon fiber. Most likely he's got engine problems. We can almost tell by how quick he pulls off.
Let's look under there. There is some fire very definitely under that car as Rahal heads into the pits.
That's the body work that's burning up underneath there.
This is a team which is having
Jack Arut's right there as Bobby Rahal comes rolling down the pits now, and they will be ready with the fire equipment. It's probably not a serious situation, but certainly has everybody concerned. Jack?
Well, Paul, Bobby Rahal brings his car in, and it is on fire in the left rear area. They're taking off the cowling towards the engine. But this is a tough day for Bobby Rahal because during the last practice session, he started this race realizing that he had a questionable gearbox. He did not go to the backup car, and it's an early DNF for Bobby Rahal and the new Honda engine here at Long Beach.
The weather here in Southern California is overcast. Temperatures in the mid-70s, no threat of rain at all, but it looks like it's going to be a super day for racing and just right air for carburation.
The car right in front of Michael Gugelman there, Mauricio Gugelman. You see there the word Hollywood on the side of the car. That is Brazil's #1 cigarette company, and it explains that this is such an international series that is a sponsor here.
Now with Bobby Rahal out of the race, he's joined Jack Arut.
Well, Bobby, you were concerned about the gearbox. Is that what put you out?
Well, it looks like an oil line broke. It's too bad. The car, we made a change in morning session, and it really ran well, and I was looking forward to the race. And, even with the oil leak in the first lap or two, I was, this car was super in the corners. I was looking forward to it. It's just a damn shame.
And he needed a boost here, Paul, because he was getting ready to go to Indianapolis for the 500. He didn't race in that race last year.
Well, we hope Bobby Rahal doesn't have a repeat of last year, as he did not make it into the Indy 500-mile race. The battle is between Unser Jr. and Fittipaldi, though for the moment it is broken off just a bit as they've had to cycle around the car of Paul Bourbonnais, who when they first came up on him really pitched it sideways, almost caught the wall, but kept it going. New driver to the Indycar is Bourbonnais.
Exactly. Paul Tracy, a fellow Canadian, is driving a car that is brand new here. You'll recall, if you saw the race at Phoenix last week, that he wrecked that car. Penske Racing has a bunch of new cars. This is one of them. They had problems with the brake and gear linkage on Friday, lost some practice time, but they came back really strong.
Fittipaldi runs in third place, chasing Al Unser Jr. Jack Arut, you have an update.
Well, Paul Samposi alluded to the fact that there are 3 distinct sets of tactics in Team Penske. We may begin to see some of them unfolding for Emerson Fittipaldi. Their team is electing to look for a yellow as early as lap 15. They want to come in early and try and use attrition to work their way back to the front. They're hoping that there will be a full course yellow. History has shown that there generally is between laps 15 and 25.
I was going to say, Jack, and by the way, we have a car off and in a very precarious area. They may get it's Dominic Dobson, so they may actually get their wish. And we'll see if he's going to get restarted. But Jack Arut, if I can ask you further, was not that the anticipation of everybody up and down the pits that there would be a early yellow, in fact, perhaps earlier than this?
Well, most people felt because of the tight quarters of racing here, Paul, that there would be several full course yellows. But in the case of Roger Penske's crew, as you know, although we've alluded to the fact that sometimes he calls the shots, they are left to make their own decisions. And this was a decision they made after warm-ups this morning.
So now back to the front of the field. Paul Tracy, the number 3 car, still leads it, and it doesn't seem that they're going to go to full course yellow while Dominic Dobson sits in what appears to be a fairly precarious position.
Well, normally they're not. They'll just have a area, what we call an area yellow right there for Dominic. But on the Penske cars, Paul, the cars ironically are identical cars. The settings on them are almost to the degree exactly the same as one of the other, but the game plans for the race are up to the teams individual. They can do pit stops or game planning any way they want to as far as Penske is concerned.
Take a look as they get down toward the first corner at the back of Paul Tracy's car here, the fin, the shark fin. They first came out with that a week ago at Phoenix, and it's part of development that leads to an announcement this week that they made that they're going to be racing at Indianapolis with the Mercedes engine, a pushrod production-based engine.
Paul, this is really an earth-shattering announcement made jointly by Penske Racing and Mercedes-Benz. They're not going to race with a Mercedes next year at Indy. They're going to race this year. It's probably the best-kept secret in racing in the last 10 or 15 years, I would say. What it means, they're going to take advantage of what you might call a loophole or an incentive clause in the Indy rules, run a stock block engine, which rumors already have posted, they think, as much as 1,000 horsepower. They should have tremendous, at least a speed advantage. Reliability will of course be a question, but it's major racing news. Penske and Mercedes getting together.
And there is a problem, as you can see. Down in the first corner, 2 cars together, 1 Paul Tracy with Mike Groff. Here's what happened. Chasing into the corner as Tracy was working through traffic. Got caught up behind the 19 car, Bobby.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Paul was committed to go the inside, as you can see right there. The 19 car Robbie Buell is braking too fast. Paul had more rear brakes than the front brakes. He locked it up and spun it. He just was pressing too hard into the corner, in my opinion.
And he was lucky that Groff was alert and able to get on the brakes right there. Damage to the front of Groff's car, I don't see a lot on Tracy's car.
No, but he's obviously killed his engine. Leaves him in a terrible position. In effect, he's about the same as being out of the race no matter what happens.
This, of course, catapults Al Unser Jr. into the lead, a man who won this race 4 times in a row and had a 5th all lined up when he was tapped from behind by Danny Sullivan.
Now, one of the things that will happen, Sam, Paul, is Penske is going to tell little Al what Tracy did. Obviously, it was his fault. He just overdrove going into the turn a little bit. And little Al's going to be a little bit more careful himself, especially if Emo doesn't come up and start pushing him too hard.
Al Unser Jr. definitely caught up in traffic now and taking care, I think, as he's coming through there. He's being cautious.
This is the first time that Al Jr. has really led a race substantially for Roger Penske since he joined the team this season. So this is a very proud moment.
And an important moment for him.
Yeah, psychologically, you always wait to make that mark with the new team, particularly when it's a team with the rich history of Penske, and of course this deal long in the coming and now reaching fruition.
You know, just like that hairpin turn right there where you saw little Al working up on that lap traffic, Sam. He doesn't want to go in there and touch a wing. That would just be disastrous at this point. Watch him right here going down the end of the front straightaway here, very fast speed. He's very careful not to take any chances on passing right now.
16 cars still on the leader lap. Al Unser Jr. is trying to pass Adrian Fernandez in the 7 car just ahead of him. Fernandez currently runs in 16th place. So at the top of the order now with the change is Al Unser Jr., then Fittipaldi, then Nigel Mansell now 3rd. Robbie Gordon is 4th. Mario Andretti runs in 5th place, followed by Raul Boesel, Mauricio Gugelmin, Michael Andretti, Stefan Johansson. Marco Greco has moved up into the top 10 and runs 10th right now. Al Unser Jr. is leading this race for the 7th time in 11 years. Emerson Fittipaldi trying to find a way, perhaps in between Adrian Fernandez and Arie Luyendyk, the 2 cars that just ahead. He's around Luyendyk now, trying to stay in contact with his teammate Al Unser Jr., who is the leader.
Little Al had a problem getting around this thing.
Whoa. Davy Jones is in trouble along with Mark Smith. Jones is going to try to get it going again, but remember, those walls are right there.
You know, the big secret to spinning out here, which does happen occasionally, is not to kill your engine. Davey didn't kill his, but it looks like now that he has. In other words, kept his engine running. Here's a replay of it coming down.
All right, the two cars were battling for 19th place. Jones just got into the side of Mark Smith as they came in the corner. Nigel ducked by on the inside.
Nigel was the lucky one. Davey locked up his brakes. When you lock up your brakes and you can't let them off real quick, you have, in effect, no steering. He ran right into the side of Mark Smith. The problem would have been Davey Jones. He's the guy that caused that one.
He has been having a very unhappy year in that A.J. Foyt car. Crash at Surfers Paradise, trouble last week. I talked to him about an hour before the race. His morale is low, and this isn't going to help any.
Sometimes teams just don't click, and these two guys are not clicking. I've been down the turn, Sam, watching Davey. Sometimes he looks good, sometimes he looks terrible. So he's not working with the mechanics properly. Somewhere or another, the whole team is just not working together.
And Mark Smith, of course, a very promising young driver from the Northwest. He's had his problems too. Didn't even qualify for last week. He rode it out in the hospital.
Now it would appear that Davey Jones, he got out there, had first gear, but no reverse. Now remember, these cars on a road circuit are supposed to have reversing. Maybe his is not working, but he was able to take off without getting a push start there.
He has a reverse gear, he told me he did. Nigel Mansell, of course, has moved into third now as we ride with him.
Here's what happened. Boy, look at Nigel. He almost totally lost it. Lock to lock. Whoa!
That was close. But look at the reflexes by Nigel Mansell. I mean, he really owes the fact that he's still in the race to the fact that he saw what was coming and had those incredible reflexes along with good judgment.
With Little Al leading the pack, Emerson in second, and Nigel hot on his tail. There's more IndyCar action after the break. 6 laps off the lead. Let's rejoin our commentator Paul Page at lap 35.
Whoa! Vassar, and it looks like the Smith car as well. Mark Smith in trouble again. Jimmy Vassar over there on the right.
Mark Smith has been the victim of a lot of problems today.
Vassar has too. They had mechanical problems.
Oh, my goodness. I had no idea he got that time.
Right over the wheels. That's what happens in open wheel racing when one car locks wheels with another.
I was just at dinner last night explaining this to people, how running over wheels is the most dangerous thing that can happen in IndyCar racing. And that's exactly what happens from it. They get airborne.
Well, Mark Smith was in a pre-race accident at Phoenix a week ago, suffered a head injury, and kept him overnight in the hospital and then released him. So he's back racing this week, and now he's involved in this. How sad.
At least he came down right side up, and that's the main thing. Open wheel cars are not good to get upside down.
It didn't appear that there was a concern for Mark, that he's out of the car and okay.
Smith's car, of course, owned by Derek Walker Racing, who also owns Robbie Gordon's car, and Willie T. Ribbs, and they've had any number of accidents so far this year. I think this might make the 7th or 8th, which is very bad luck.
Still looking at that battle as here comes Villeneuve moving up to the inside of Goodyear. Goodyear sees him there, lets him through, but that was close.
Oh, that was an impossible pass. I think Villeneuve just has to be a young man, and nobody told him that he couldn't do that, so he went ahead and did it anyway.
Villeneuve, of course, the great French-Canadian, is 23. He's the youngest driver in the race here, and he is ambitious. He probably got a little over his head at Phoenix last week when he triggered that multi-car pileup. Didn't observe the yellow flags perhaps the way he should. You see, he is an ambitious driver. Barry Green, the crew chief there, says he is one of the most intelligent chassis drivers that he's ever worked with. Brings back the good information.
But Sam, you won't make a pass like he just made very many times without a little collision going
without
on.
getting away with it, I know.
Is that the patented Bobby Unser move there? We've seen you do that.
I was sitting here crossing my fingers when I saw that thing happening, when I saw him go to the outside.
Yeah, we never had to do that for you, Bobby.
No, I hope not.
And look at him as he loses the back end again. But that's been one of the reported problems with both the Lola and the Renard. Is they lose the back end. Now he's wandering all over the place. You wonder if he doesn't have a bad tire.
That is a Renard car he's driving, by the way. The blue car we're talking about in the center here of this battle.
I think there's nothing wrong with that car, in truth. It's just the fact that kid is trying hard. 23 years old. He really doesn't know any better yet.
Around Marco Greco, but then into the wall. Into that tire barrier, loses it, but he keeps it going.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I'm telling you, that's what's nice to be 23 years of age. He doesn't even know these race cars can bite you yet.
Damage to the rear wing. That's a shortcut into the pits that you are allowed to take if you have a problem in the car. looks like if he can get rid of that banner, maybe pop rivet that wing back in place, he's going to go again.
Quick thinking to duck into the pits that way.
He's got to remember now, the rear wing is broken. You look at the piece hanging down from it.
We really did
That's
see...
not a livable situation on the racetrack going fast. That's something they'll have to fix.
He was over his head there. It was exciting to watch, but he was over his head.
That's not a car problem, Sam. He's just like you said.
Already the team has the spare wing out and they're ready to go. And we're going to keep an eye here because best indications are that Al Unser Jr. may head for the pits anytime now. Yep. And here he is. So Al Unser Jr. comes in for his stop, Jack.
And Paul, there was some debate as to whether they would make a wing adjustment on the front of the car. Richard Buck goes to work, and they do. They adjust the wing. They're going to change all 4 tires. A nominal stop this way. You can see a lot of the dust that comes off the actual brake rotors from the use of the brakes here at the Long Beach. Remember, they shift 1,690 times. Little Al having trouble shifting that time to get back out in a little over 18.4 seconds.
Now, another thing to remember as you watch Little Al leave, the speed limit in the pits today, 60 miles an hour. What they call the drop dead means that you get a black flag, 66. If the radar gun says 66, until they get right there, they have to pull them in on a black flag. Over the blue line there, only 2 tires. Jack told us this from the drivers' meeting today.
And ironically, it's hard to keep these cars down to 60 in the pit lane, particularly when you launch them, because by the time the wheels have stopped spinning in that low gear, you're up over 60.
Emerson Fittipaldi picked up the lead of the race, but he comes in for his stop now on the 41st lap, Jack.
And Paul, watch for some tactics unfolding. They connect the hose. The word we got is they may very well just put enough fuel in, the amount of fuel that it takes to change all 4 tires. We're going to wait and see if that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. A tactical move, Gary Gerald.
Nigel Mansell's crew servicing him for the first time off the jacks. This is a good stop. Now a delay on the fuel. He's rolling in 13.8 seconds.
Great stop for the Newman Haas team.
Now we're getting word that number 31, Al Unser Jr. may be getting a stop-and-go penalty.
Yeah, it looked to me like in the first seconds after he started away from his pits, he might have exceeded that 60.
Let me tell you, it's very difficult. All the drivers say that in second gear, trying to go between 60 and 70 miles an hour is critical. He was clocked reportedly at 80 miles an hour. In fact, Al Unser Jr. was one of the drivers in the drivers' meeting that lobbied really hard to try and have the actual speed limit raised from 60 to 70, but he lost in a blind vote of all the drivers in the field.
So many things happening at once here. We saw another car stuck into the tire barrier. We'll try to get you up to speed on everything. Well, that was Marco Greco, who was having such a great race up until then, so we'll keep track of that. And let's take a look. There comes the 2 car through.
Now, Little Al still came out in the lead on all this pit stop strategy, Paul, but remember, what you gain one time, you're going to pay for later on. So I'm not too sure a strategy like that is good.
Yeah, here he comes.
Here's Little Al coming in for it. Obviously, the stop-and-go penalty. And people have to realize they run a car that's capable of 230, 240 miles an hour down to 60 miles an hour is sometimes just utterly ridiculous. So a lot of the drivers could be having that problem today.
This, of course, puts Emerson Fittipaldi into the lead, the first time he has ever led a race here at Long Beach, interestingly.
Bobby, there has been some concern, a couple of people that we've talked to this weekend, most notably A.J. Foyt, that they're so fast on that black flag for exceeding the speed limit in the pits, and yet no penalty last week for Nigel Mansell at Phoenix when he jumped over the grass strip and got out on the race course, and no penalty for Villeneuve after coming around and hitting Mashushta in that accident at Phoenix. Let's go pit side, Gary Gerald.
Just a quick update on Villeneuve. He came in, and while that whole flurry of pit stops was taking place up and down the road, the Forsyth Green team replaced the entire rear wing. He's now back on course. They had some damage up around the wicker bill, so they replaced the whole rear wing assembly. Lost a lot of time, but he's still in the competition. Also, we've had reports of a couple of more of those pit lane violations. Davy Jones, 68 miles an hour. They were going to penalize Greco. As you mentioned, he ended up in a tire barrier.
Villeneuve lost 5 laps and dropped to 20th position with that long stop while they repaired the wing. Still pretty quick service there. Let's give you the top of the order. Emerson Fittipaldi leads it, followed by Al Unser Jr. 15 seconds behind. Then Nigel Mansell, Robbie Gordon, Raul Boisel, who are watching Mario, and they came through the yellow flag that flies for Marco Greco at the end of the main straightaway. The yellow flags fly in tandem, 2 of them at the start-finish line, indicating a full course yellow. So they will now line up behind Johnny Rutherford in the pace car, and any advantage, which was 12 seconds that Emerson Fittipaldi had gained over Al Unser Jr., is now lost. While we don't have an official reason, one suspects that cars which are in barriers all around the course are the reason. They want to get all of the safety equipment out, get everything pulled out of the barriers, and the course clear again. The field lines up, looking for a green flag as they come off of Seaside and through the final 3 corners, heading to the main straightaway. Been under full course yellow the past several laps now, 5 in fact. We've completed the 51st lap of the race. Green flag comes out again. Emerson Fittipaldi leads the field down. Immediately, Al Unser Jr. comes in pursuit. Nigel Mansell 3rd, Robbie Gordon 4th. Michael and Mario, they battle and battle for position. The position is 6th.
And as we look at when they cross the start-finish line on the restart here, Paul, 4 seconds behind for Little Al compared to Emo.
Mario has been ahead of Michael throughout the race, so the fact that Michael did not get by there just then does not mean that he's going to be held up. What is important is that Michael is now ahead of Gugelmin there. Both those cars, Renards, run out of the same team, the Chip Ganassi team, but with different engineers.
So you ride with Michael Andretti, the Reynard car, chasing the Lola of his father just ahead. They'll have breakfast in the morning together, and that pretty well ends the conversations for the day.
It's amazing sometimes, like with Michael and his father, Mario, who's right in front of him there, how close they run together and how often we worry about them touching each other. But ironically, they work like a team that way. In other words, they very seldom have a problem together.
Well, of course, when they both ran for Newman Haas, they were able to share technical information, which I think both of them enjoyed tremendously. Now, mum's the word, of course, technically.
Black flag given to Scott Goodyear for exceeding the speed limit into the pits. He came in and out for a stop-and-go penalty.
You know what? That happened last year.
He was running in 20th.
Yeah, he was running 2nd at the middle of the race last year when he was black flagged for speeding in the pits.
Emerson Fittipaldi is the leader of the race. 59 laps of the 105-lap scheduled distance are complete. The early leader was Paul Tracy, but then coming through traffic, lapping cars, he got into trouble and off the course. That took him out of the lead. Then Al Unser Jr. picked up the lead of the race. And Little Al and the Penske team did a fascinating maneuver. They pulled a time stop for their first pit stop, hoping to try to pick up some time and set themselves up for the end of the race. Al Unser Jr. runs in 2nd place now. Nigel Mansell 3rd, Robbie Gordon 4th, Raul Boesel 5th.
And they've really been having some hard battles. Little Al's had a lot of cars to pass because he did get that penalty. He's back in the field. He's been complaining over the radio that he'd like to see more move-over flags. And I don't blame him a bit for wanting that. But the other guys would like that too, Paul.
Any help you can take. We're watching Mauricio Gugelmin and Stefan Johansson as they were battling for a little bit there. Now the leader's coming around to overhaul Gugelmin, who's having a pretty good day. Oh, as he gets it sideways.
Now that's more than one time there for Tracy right in this race. Paul is really having a problem, and I'd have to think that the problem he's actually having is he has too much rear brake. As soon as he touches the brakes hard, locks the rear tires, and around it goes.
I was going to say that happened. Same place, same problem. That's got to be a brake light.
Jumps out on it.
These cars have adjustments inside of them. They can adjust the brakes. You can watch him now. He's come underneath Gugelmin there. Starts pushing on the brakes. Watch the fronts don't lock enough. See the rears light up. Now, that's Paul's fault. He's probably adjusted the brake bias the wrong way, causing the problem from the cockpit.
And the point is, Bobby, if your fronts lock up, the car remains fairly stable. When the rears lock up, it swap ends.
Well, of course, the idea, Sam, is to have all 4 of them if they're going to lock at the same time, which is almost impossible.
Yeah, you got a good idea, too, there from that one shot on the replay of all the brake that is being done going in that corner, all those black marks. What do they do in the cockpit, Bobby, to keep him from twisting the brake control the wrong direction?
Well, it's called education. You just tell the guy to the right does one thing, to the left does the other. And what happens is the drivers are smart enough to know that. The problem is they get excited in the race. They forget which way they needed to turn the bias. They turn it the wrong way. And then he finds out when he's at the end of a 190-mile-an-hour straightaway.
Well, Tracy trying to come back up to speed now. He is well out of the top 20.
But just
and
virtually
6 laps
bad,
now, 7 laps behind the lead.
It's just virtually a bad day for Paul. It looks like it just gets worse as it goes on. I bet he's really wondering by now.
Smooth run for Emerson Fittipaldi now. He runs in the lead of the race. Jack Arute, you have an update. Emerson slows. All of a sudden, Emerson slows. Jack Arute's been watching from pit side. Emerson raises his hand indicating that he is slowing, and this looks like a serious problem. Here is Little Al
taking the lead.
Al comes past, picks up the lead of the race. Let's go pit side. Jack Arute, do you have any idea what's going on?
Well, Paul, we're getting conflicting reports. You know, one of the things that happened with Team Penske this year is they have scrambled their radios, so you can't eavesdrop. The team is a little concerned. At first, they thought it might be a gearbox problem, but now the secondary thought is it may be an electrical problem. He's limping his way back to the pits where the crew will take a look at it, and we'll give you a report then.
In the hairpin now, he'll be around that corner in a second.
Another thing to remember now, Penske cars are all identical. So Roger Penske is going to be worrying, whatever happened to Emmo, is it going to happen to Little Al too? Because it's obviously going to be his only chance of winning this race is Little Al. So he'll be the first one to want to know what is wrong with Emmo's car when it comes in right now.
All right, Emerson heads for the pits. Jack is waiting.
Well, Bobby Unser, you were alluding to the fact that they felt the engine sounds fine here. They're going to change tires. It may have been that he had a problem finding a gear because it looks as if they're not going to take any cowlings off. And one of the things that we were told, because of the type of gear ratios you have to run here, sometimes you can clip off a little piece of the gear. He stalled the engine now when you're shifting. And Emmo is not at all happy. But, Bobby, as you know, with the different gears between first, second, third, and fourth, you can clip them off, and it can become difficult shifting.
Jack, the most likely problem is that Emmo ran out of fuel. Remember, he had a time to stop. Most likely he's out of fuel, and the reason it dies right now is it hasn't purged the air out of the system. It's fuel injection, but it still has to get the air out.
But Bobby, he came in, took his normal stop. He stalled after the stop. He had taken on the fuel. It sounds like he's still stuck in that fifth gear.
Major development as far as the championship standings are concerned. Emerson came in here with a substantial lead, 37 points to 22 for his nearest pursuer, and if he had won this race or even finished second, he would have gone into Indy with a hammerlock on the series. This opens things right up.
All right, Jack now's had a chance to talk with the Penske team.
I talked with Chuck Sprague, and here's exactly what it gave us. They were surmising the same way we did. At first, they were referring to it as a temporary gear shifting problem. The car was hung up in gear. Chuck Sprague, though, much like you did, Bobby Unser, thought maybe it wasn't that, and maybe they had run out of fuel. They've ascertained that they had not run out of fuel, but they are very, very concerned about the gearbox.
Jack, it looks like they're in trouble again. We see the car moving very slowly around the back part of the track. Whatever struck has struck again.
Well, it seems to get hung up in a gear, and during practice, that last practice session this morning, that was a problem that befell Al Unser Jr.
Jack,
they're concerned about it.
They had this problem with 2 of the 3 cars back on Friday. They felt they had it beat. And,
but he's going to stay out. I don't understand that.
Well,
maybe he's hoping it's going to get back up into a gear and he can go.
Well, he's still trying to figure out, can he overcome the problem by shifting it a little bit different and something like that. All they do with a gear shift is go forward and back with it from one to the other. Again, sequential on the shift. So in order to get the second, he has to go from 6th to 2nd and so on. And naturally, when you're shifting up, you go from one to the other like that. But going down, you have to shift a bunch of times.
Emerson Fittipaldi being very careful. As you see, the new leader of the race, Al Unser Jr., comes around, completing his 66th lap now with Nigel Mansell running in second. And in third, it's Robbie Gordon.
Things seemingly going Mansell's way. That is until a sudden lack of grip in his right rear tyre forced him to stop for a change of wheel. With precision and pace, the Newman-Haas team set to work to repair the damage and put matters right. No mistakes in the pits this time. No need to retire. Nigel back on the right track.
Al Unser Jr. leads it. We'll look through the running order. Robbie Gordon now comes up and picks up second place. And by staying alive and fighting hard, Raul Boisel is now in third. But Nigel Mansell has dropped back to fifth because of that tire, Gary Gerald.
Indeed, Paul, he got into the pits. It was 13.5 seconds to make the change and to get the full complement of fuel that should take him the rest of the distance. They believe that the reason for the flat was contact from behind by Michael Andretti. Now he drops back, but on the radio they're already telling Nigel they're in good shape, we're all right. I think what they want to do is make sure they finish and get those championship points.
Yeah, let's keep in mind that on these tires that they're tubeless. They're tubeless tires. They're very, very thin. So if you look at the front wing in a car, the side plates, for example, could be a knife. If a wing goes up and just touches somebody's tire, it just slices it.
Another quick spin on, and again, the 3 car.
Of Paul Tracy. Trouble. And of course, you know, there's been bad blood already between Nigel Mansell and Michael Andretti. They had words just before the start at Australia. So this is just another chapter in what may become a hot story as the year develops.
Another spin. Well, I'll tell you what, getting into that corner has been tough for everybody. It's one of the Pac West cars, and he's right in the middle of the line.
Yeah,
boy, look at this. From the flip,
I'm sure that's Dominic Dobson right there, although I can't. The cars are identical in color, so it's Dobson sitting out there. But you know, the bad thing about it is, it's a terrible position to be sitting in for both the guys on the track and himself.
Well, they've got to get it out of there, and there is the question whether or not this should be a full course yellow.
Yes, and you can see the course workers are not opting to go out there and help get him off the deal. Because look what the cars have to do to go around it.
Well, that's not that far down. Why don't you go out there and give him a point?
I wasn't even going to offer that part, Paul.
I'll tell you what, course marshals here, of course, all volunteers. They work day on day on day. Here's on board with Nigel Mansell. Cross the start-finish line. Now look ahead for the yellow flags and then for that car in the course.
And remember, he's going 190 right about here as he hits the brakes hard. Now he sees it. It's a pretty good view of it. Whoa. Remember that Robbie Gordon right now is 26 seconds back of Al Unser Jr. So if there is a full course yellow, it will have a material effect on the incident. Here we are now riding with Gordon as he sees the same thing. Whoa.
Yeah, that's really close. Remember, the guys that can make it on the inside, that's where the track is clean. The guys that have to go on the outside, that's where you find the marbles. That isn't an easy place to go around.
And here we go, looking at the spin.
There it is.
Same problem that Tracy seems to have. Too much rear brake, not enough front brake, and you spin. There's no choice either. A guy's got to keep stopping when he gets down there. Going from 190 miles an hour to stay down to 70, hey, you got to stop. That's all there is to it.
Let's look at Michael as he was following Nigel. They're, by the way, in a battle for position here. Whoa. Little close, huh? Just a little close.
But then Nigel definitely slowed suddenly, didn't he? Because of traffic. He was in a bind, too. I don't think you can fault either.
No, he had traffic to the inside. That's racing right there.
Yeah.
Race summary after 76 laps. 5 lead changes, 9 cars out of the race. And we've had 1 full course caution for 6 laps.
Al Unser Jr. in for what should be his final stop of the afternoon, working very methodically, but the concern for everyone on pit road is this 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. They're completing their work, and this time Al Jr. is far more careful coming down pit road. We'll wait and see if he's under the 66 drop-dead speed limit.
He's going to stay under it this time, Jack. I can about guarantee you. He's got a fairly good lead in the race. Penske's already told him, man, no matter what, don't get another stop and go, because that really could cost him the race.
Very careful on the exit. Carefully with just 2 lines over. Looked perfectly legal to me. Al Unser Jr. Very heads-up driver and very good here. Robbie Gordon should be due for a stop anytime.
4 victories, of course, in his career for Al Unser Jr. Here, this victory, if it comes, his 5th, would give him 20 IndyCar wins in his career, put him 1 behind Emerson Fittipaldi.
Now we're going to see Al, little Al. He's on his last fuel stop. He won't have to stop again without problems. Going to see him taking better care of the transmission and trying to guarantee that he doesn't overuse fuel or anything like that for the remainder.
It was good here to see the family of Don Sully Sullivan. We look at one of the Ford-powered cars. He was one of the chief engineers for the first flathead V8 production engine for Ford, 1932. He passed away recently, but family here watching the race today.
That was the most famous racing engine in the world for many years. You know, I thought that would never leave.
I'll tell you who we are missing, though. Regulars that have been competing in IndyCar racing the last few years: Danny Sullivan, Roberto Guerrero, Scott Brayton, Eddie Cheever, do not have rides this year, and they are much missed.
Do you anticipate they show at Indy?
Well, I think some of them will in one form or another.
We keep riding Robbie Gordon. He's going to stop. There he comes. He comes into the pits. Robbie Gordon, leader of the race at the moment. Al Unser Jr. should pick up the lead as he flashes by on the main straightaway. Gary Gerald is there.
They were very concerned about that fuel problem that ran him out of the race last week at Phoenix, but they said they found the problem. They wouldn't talk about it. They were not concerned coming in today. He's here for his final service. He's got a shot today at his first ever IndyCar victory. He was second last year at Mid-Ohio. We've got him rolling in 13.3 seconds, Paul.
As Gordon pits for vital fuel to finish the race, he slips to third. In the brief window, Little Al retakes the lead, and Nigel moves into second. A premier victory lost by the 25-year-old Robbie Gordon on his home turf.
How many times we've watched Al Jr. reel off the last laps in command of this race. This time, however, it has dramatic consequences in terms of the championship. A win here would bring him 37 points, which would tie exactly his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi for the lead in the PPG championship.
Here's that fight that continues between Teo Fabi and Adrian Fernandez. Adrian Fernandez currently runs in 8th place. Fabi is right there. We watch the battle from the nose of Robbie Gordon's car, who runs in 3rd and seems to be a little wary of getting involved in this fight.
Well, he doesn't seem to be pressing hard right now. It isn't like a Robbie Gordon way. Normally, he would just annihilate those guys. So maybe he is getting smarter, like Sam said a little while ago.
Well, Bobby, I think the point is resolved when you see the gaps between the drivers. I think Gordon realizes that even if he gets by, he's probably too far behind Mansell to reel him in. Similarly, Gordon is far enough ahead of Mansell that he can afford to be cautious at least for a few laps, maybe not the whole way.
And Sam, he needs to do it. He's driving for a super good team in Derek Walker this year, so he needs to show that he's smart as well as fast.
Yeah, that's the point. That's what he could add to his resume today, is that he's smart. So far, we know he's quick.
Teo Fabi continues to work at the back of Fernandez. Looks like he's in a position, if he's going to make a try, it may occur as they come off of Seaside. And look how hard he's trying there as he locks him up.
That was my words. You can't say he's not trying, Paul.
Bobby would move into 8th place if he can get by Fernandez.
That's the Jim Hall team, the yellow car right there. Bobby, that's the Jim Hall team. They've not done so well in racing the last couple of years. They're really trying hard to get all their momentum gathered back up again.
At the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, 102 laps complete. Al Unser Jr. has had his lead whittled down just a little bit. Now only 29 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell. Mansell's doing everything he can. Little Al is being careful. In fact, a very careful pass just a moment ago of Dominic Dobson. He now runs alone and has clear sailing ahead as we come to the closing laps here in Long Beach.
If he wins, this, of course, will be a win in his 3rd start for Penske. It took Emerson Fittipaldi 15 starts to win a race for Roger, and Paul Tracy 16 starts.
Bobby, you drove for Roger for many years. What will that do for Little Al in terms of his relationship with Roger?
Well, his relationship couldn't be any better than it is right now, no matter even if he won Indianapolis. He thinks the sun rises and moon sets in Little Al. The thing that will make a difference is Roger fuels himself on winning. If he wins, he just becomes obsessed with winning more. There's nobody like Roger Penske in the racing world. And history will always show that he is an individual that nobody else has ever come close to.
And remember, it is Roger Penske who is individually masterminding the pit strategy of Al Unser Jr. today.
Jerry Breon and I were talking this morning on that team, and both of us agreed that without Roger's motivation, without his drive, without his strong desires, everybody in the team would probably be only 50% of what they are.
Well, he makes them all better. By the way, that battle between Fabi and Fernandez has broken off, with Fernandez remaining in 8th place as they come toward the flags with just one more lap to go after he flashes down the front straight here. It's Unser Jr., Mansell, Gordon, Boycel, Mario, and then Michael Andretti, then Mauricio Gugelmin as we start the final lap.
Paul, how about that stat you revealed at the beginning of the show, that for the last 3 years, the man who started second went on to win? This could be the 4th consecutive year for that.
And everybody will battle for second next year. How do you figure that one out? You're trying to qualify for the poles. I want only be 1,000 slower than the pole.
Just think the life or the feelings that Little Al is leading right now, knowing how bad he really wants to win for the Roger Penske team. worrying about the transmission and traffic. A cut tire could even lose the race for him right now.
He's in clear traffic, though, Bobby, with only a couple of turns to go. He could probably, if he can accelerate off the hairpin here, coast home.
Slide that far, Sam.
Al Unser Jr. about to reassert himself as the king of the beach as he takes the Penske car across the line and picks up the twin checkered flags. Al Unser Jr. is the winner in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, chasing a lot of time with little Al in the sprint car days. So a victory once again for that team. Here comes Nigel Mansell, the final 3 corners of the course. Little Al already saluting the crowd and beginning to slow. Is that a happy kid or what?
Oh, he's happy today.
Nigel Mansell through the hairpin for the very last time. His teammate Mario Andretti will be coming to the line too for the last time here. And here is Nigel Mansell, comes toward the flag and picks up second place. Robbie Gordon will come across in third.
Milwaukee, 1 mile bull ring as they call it. It's going to be a fantastic race this afternoon. Not qualified that well, but stay with us, and I'm glad to be back with you.
Opened in 1904, the Milwaukee Mile is one of the world's oldest racetracks. It was here 12 months ago that Nigel Mansell scored his first oval win on the way to the championship. This season, though, he's yet to taste victory. In the first race of '94 at Surfers Paradise, Michael Andretti drove the new Reynard car to a debut victory. Emerson Fittipaldi, second in Australia, went one better in Phoenix in round 2, taking the flag well clear of teammate Al Unser Jr. Victory gave Emo the early championship lead. Long Beach, round 3, and the Penskes show they can do it on the streets as well as the ovals. Unser Jr. holding off Nigel Mansell to score his 5th career win. Fittipaldi and Little Al shared the championship lead. Round 4, the Brickyard. Indianapolis and the Penskes with a new one-off Mercedes engine dominate. Unser Jr. on the pole led the first 23 laps. Mansell started from 7th on the grid, but had moved up to 3rd behind the Penskes when rookie Hideshi Matsuda got sideways in turn 1 and hit the wall heavily just short of half distance. Several minutes later, and still under the resulting yellow flag, Mansell got the shock of his life. American rookie Dennis Vitolo inexplicably lost control of his car and crash-landed on top of Mansell's machine. Nigel, initially concussed, had to make a hasty exit when boiling water began seeping into the cockpit. Vitolo later accepted the blame, but Nigel wasn't happy. Another man in hot water, Emerson Fittipaldi. He led from Little Al with just 15 laps left, but in attempting to lap his teammate, made an uncharacteristic error and clattered the wall in turn 4, ending his dream of back-to-back Indy 500 victories. The mistake cost Fittipaldi $1 million in prize money, and the disappointment ran right through the crew. Penske, though, still led the race, and minutes later, under the yellow flag, Al Unser Jr. completed his final lap to win the greatest prize in motorsport. Al Jr.'s victory was his 2nd at Indianapolis, and coming into Milwaukee, he looks the favourite for the title.
Al, by winning your 2nd Indy 500, you opened up quite a nice little cushion for yourself at the top of the points table.
Yeah, you know, with Emerson not finishing and everybody else that were in the points finishing kind of poorly, it enabled us to get a little bit, but it's way too early right now, so.
A great feeling for you, though, to win your 2nd 500.
Yeah, it was. You know, what can I say? The Marlboro Team Penske really did it for me. You know, it's a great racing team, and we're proud to be driving.
At the beginning of the season, you said to us that Nigel Mansell was the hunted, and you were the hunters. Now perhaps the roles are a little bit reversed.
No, he's still wearing that number 1 on his car, so he's definitely still the hunted. And, you know, we're just going to work extremely hard to get that number 1 on my car.
I was behind a pace car going slowly, and then I was put out the race by a missile. The trouble was it was a flying missile engine first and just wiped us out, and we were very, very lucky.
Well, that Missile, of course, was a rookie driver, a guy who races once a year. Do you think there's an argument for introducing in IndyCars a system like in Formula 1 with a super license? There's a certain level has to be attained before these people are allowed to race.
Well, I'm probably not the person to ask because I'd have to control myself for your answer, but I think it's disgraceful, and as I say, I use the word liberally. I'm totally disillusioned that a race of that magnitude doesn't have that already in place, and the fact that nothing happened other than the fact it put us out of the race and literally could have hurt us severely. USAC just looked the other way, and it's an absolute, I have to say, it's an absolute disgrace.
So let's take a look at the pace setters on the Milwaukee Mile. On pole, Brazilian Raul Mansell, second here last year, but in 7 years of IndyCars, he's never won a race.
Raul, your second consecutive pole position here at Milwaukee. You own this track.
No, I'm not. I tried maybe to win a race here, that's for sure. I guess I have this place figured out pretty good. I have a good car. 2 years in a row with two different engineers with work with me. So maybe I have a good understanding of this place. But, the goal is to win the bloody race.
Watch out for the young guns on row 2. The maverick Robbie Gordon is joined by the impressive 23-year-old Jacques Villeneuve, second at Indy last week. Mansell starts from row 5, behind 2 of the 3 Penskes. He desperately needs a repeat of last year's result to stay in the championship frame. Let's now join our race commentator, Paul Page.
The first 4 rows well aligned. As Raul Boisel paces him off the corner, picks up the pace. And here we go. Paul Tracy sweeping down toward the outside, trying to get around Raul Boisel. They come off the corner side by side. Tracy forges ahead.
Well, that's one of the best contests between a Ford and a Chevy engine or an Elmore engine that I ever saw, Paul.
Michael Andretti trying to make a move up through the field now. We'll stay on board with him for a second as Tracy takes over the lead from Raul Boisel. Gordon is third. Villeneuve is fourth.
Tracy had trouble all through the warm-up, couldn't put 2 laps together. Suddenly the Penske team seems to have gotten his car right.
A lot of struggling during this morning's warm-up session, which also, by the way, caused some damage to Dominic Dobson's car and to Adrian Fernandez's car. They both got into the wall, but both were repaired in time to start. Michael Andretti on the start there was able to jump from 12th up to 5th. We're back on board with Michael.
To a lot of these drivers, Paul, Milwaukee is the place that they like the most. For the small track, the short track, this is the place. And this is one of the guys right here, Michael Andretti. He just loves the place.
That right rear tire turning about 2,000 RPM right now.
On the home stretch now, in front of the grandstand with the largest crowd I've ever seen here at the Milwaukee Mile. Spectacular crowd here today. Paul Tracy runs alone in the lead.
Tracy, of course, had a big lead here last year when he ran into trouble, had a crash, and that has been the story so often for him in races. It's funny, though, now that Indy is over, it's as if a great weight was lifted off Tracy. He's really racing today.
Second place, Raul Boisel. You ride with him now. Paul Tracy just sits ahead as they work to the backstretch.
Now watch as we're on board with these cameras and the guys go into the turns. Watch and see how they go down. Use the yellow line or the white line to the left is your guide. You can see the yellow line and the white line, and you can see the different patterns that the different guys use. For example, Boisel or right there, Paul Tracy. They all have different concepts of how they're going to go through the turn.
As now, Al Unser Jr. begins to challenge Michael. And Michael's not going to have much of it. But Junior's in a position off the corner.
Great racing at Milwaukee. You see this all the time, side-by-side racing.
Now those two guys run together enough to where they kind of know what each other are going to do. That's the only way they can run side-by-side all the way through the 1 and 2 turn there, folks.
Bobby, you've raced a lot of laps at this track. How would you rate it among all the tracks in the country to drive?
Sam, I think it's the nicest oval track that we have. It's a perfect oval. Both turns are the same shape. The track is flat. It's always what they call a driver's racetrack, or the guys really have to work hard.
Fittipaldi tries to the inside of Villeneuve, can't get that job done. There's Tracy, still the leader of the race, but now he begins to encounter traffic. Boisel comes out, to take the slower traffic. Now here comes Robbie Gordon, Villeneuve, and Fittipaldi as they will come into the slower cars, and that will make a world of difference in how they get around.
Now Fittipaldi's going to cause Jacques Villeneuve right there on the right-hand side to go a little bit harder. You see, look at that. Whoa, he didn't either. He just flew right by him.
So Fittipaldi now up to challenge Robbie Gordon. And here comes Little Al. He'll try to dial around the outside of Villeneuve. Then he comes to the inside on the front stretch.
Here
Robbie
we go
Gordon battles with Fittipaldi. You got a glimpse of it for a second. Here is Little Al as he comes off of 2, still trying to get Jacques, and Fittipaldi has passed Gordon. Brian Hurt is right there. Nope, that's Mark Smith. There comes Little Al as he gets caught behind Mark Smith.
Well, the traffic in Milwaukee is rough. You know, you're only taking just in the lower 20-second bracket to get around this track. 23 to 24 seconds a lap. Well, the traffic gets really bad like it is right now.
Little Al, of course, jumped up from 11th place. Scott Goodyear is having some problems. He fell from 5th back to 14th. You're on board, Robbie Gordon.
Watch how wide a line Robbie Gordon takes through the turn. Whoa!
Little Al drops to the inside of Robbie, and just that quickly he has passed. The Penske car is very definitely on the move.
Gordon has been taking a wide line through the turns all weekend, passing cars in practice. And I think it'll serve him well in the race because he'll be able to make passes on the slower cars that others can't.
Now, you know, a lot of the passing is done as you go into the turns, as you've watched Little Al doing it. It's driving deep. The cars don't, or the drivers don't use an awful lot of brakes there. They just barely use the brakes.
For second place as here comes Fittipaldi, past Mansell, and Emerson Fittipaldi picks up second. So Penske cars now run 1 and 2.
And Little Al is on the move. A classic Little Al race where he starts deep in the field, 11th, and then comes on hard toward the middle of the race.
So Penske cars in first and second place. And when Al Unser Jr. took Robo-Cell, that made it Penske 1, 2 and 3. Paul Tracy still out in front, but coming under increasing pressure from Emerson Fittipaldi. Emo looking to take advantage of Tracy getting held up in traffic and sneaking through on the inside. Meanwhile, Little Al catching both of them. A totally dominant performance early in the race by the team based in Poole in Dorset.
Penske cars 1, 2 and 3. Fittipaldi, Tracy, and Little Al. Little Al now working to the outside of Tracy.
I have never seen a team fight as hard within itself as these three guys are going. Switching back and forth, sometimes once every lap, and just going all over the place, passing the guys high and low. Paul, it's amazing.
And already the 3 Penske cars have pulled away from the 4th place car, which is Jacques Villeneuve at the moment. They're 4 seconds up on Villeneuve.
Let's go down pit side for a report on Raoul Boisel. Here's Gary.
Well, he started from the pole, but unfortunately with his changing weather conditions, the setup isn't working. They picked up a push. The car's not responding. They want yellow, of course, so they can make a change as soon as possible.
Take a look at the running order after 24 miles. Fittipaldi still in front, followed by Little Al and then Paul Tracy. Now, remember, as Jack suggested at the start, we're looking at a Penske car with an entirely different power plant. This is the Elmore D engine, not the Mercedes-Benz that ran so powerfully at Indianapolis. So the playing field is a bit more level, Bobby.
Or to explain it further, Paul, that the engine is very similar to the Ford. Even though they're made by 2 different manufacturers, they're the same cubic inches, the same blower pressure. Other than that, they're turning about the same RPM. So it's a very level playing field, as you said.
Level playing field, except it seems to be utterly dominated by these red and day-glow white cars of Penske. I mean, have you ever seen, Bobby, Penske so dominant? I mean, he's got cars running 1, 2, 3 and pulling away.
Sam, for about 10 laps there, we couldn't even tell who was in first and who was in second for a while. They were passing so often.
One of the things that you tend to forget when an engine is as powerful as the Mercedes was at Indianapolis is how really good the chassis is. And of course, we've seen this Nigel Bennett designed Penske chassis perform so very well throughout the season, winning at Long Beach, winning at Phoenix.
And just so everybody knows, on the RPM, they're all turning about 13 to 13,500. Some of them 13.5. But most of them have 2 gears in the transmission. One for what you call cruising. If there's no race like this is really a race now, they'll be running the low gear, just going like heck, probably turn 13.5.
Continuing to watch the run at the front of the field.
Remember that Emerson Fittipaldi made an uncharacteristic driving error late in the race, 16 laps to go at Indianapolis last week. That may be holding him. Little Al down on the inside, Emerson on the outside.
Oh, look at all this traffic as they come onto the backside. Little Al down to the inside. They were 3 wide off the corner. But Fittipaldi threads his way in behind Teo Fabi.
Traffic makes so much difference at this particular time. Whoa! Look at little Al going way underneath there. And everybody else bogged ammo down, and he got by.
So Al Unser Jr. now picks up the lead of the race.
A lot of those passes like that are gambles. Little Al didn't know until he came out of the turn that it was going to be free and clear underneath.
Well, I tell you, Little Al used to wait for half distance or even later before he would take over the lead. He'd work his way up carefully. Not so today. This is very early in the race to see him burst into the lead.
On Michael Andretti and Raul Boisel line just ahead. There is Nigel as he tries to get around Michael. Whoa, he's going to take him close to the wall with that one.
Boy, that was a close one there. Michael didn't see him for a while, kept moving out. You could see Nigel was getting a little nervous.
Considerable rivalry between Nigel Mansell and Michael Andretti, of course, stemming from their incident on the first lap down in Australia at the beginning of the season. No love lost between those two drivers.
Michael Andretti rides in 8th place, the last car on the leader lap. The leaders should be lining up just behind Michael here shortly. Nigel is 7th, then Raul Boisel in 6th. There they are all together as Nigel begins to challenge on Raul, and they move around Mark Smith.
Nigel, at last, having a really good race this year. He's had a couple of placings. He's well up in the championship, but he hasn't really moved well through the traffic. He is now.
You know, Sam, I think the deal, a lot of it between Nigel and Michael is not bad feelings, except that Nigel is in the position with the same team where Michael used to be with. And I think there's always just a slight amount of jealousy on things like that. But they respect each other, and they both win in the same team. So that shows you it's a team that's really good in a lot of ways.
Well, I agree with you, Bobby. And of course, last year, Nigel was very solicitous of Michael's troubles in Formula One. He did everything he could to help him out with advice.
Now Nigel Mansell lines up on Raul Boisel. Just ahead of them is Jacques Villeneuve.
Look at how much is going on in these cars. I mean, look at the steering here. A few changes to that steering wheel every few seconds. It's tough going, Paul.
You can see Nigel is going clear down almost to the grass. He's using kind of a late apex. Some of the guys that are going slower are using earlier apex.
Michael Andretti has gone a lap down to the leaders, and now the leader, Al Unser Jr., is pulling up behind Nigel Mansell as there goes Fittipaldi around Nigel. And this race is at its 42nd lap and has been green right from the go.
Paul, remember at Indy a week ago, the Penske cars were dominant there too, but the other guys had the hope, the other drivers could hope that there would be a mechanical problem that would strike the Penske cars. There's less chance of that today, don't you agree?
So Al Unser Jr. continues to slice his way through this field, followed by his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy running in 3rd. Take a look at Nigel Mansell and Robbie Gordon as they go side by side. This is a battle for 4th.
And again, it's one of the few racetracks that you can really race side by side all the way around the turns, all the way around the track a lot of times. There's Robbie Gordon watching way out, not even down anywhere near where most of the other guys are running.
New record attendance here on the mile, 45,254 race fans enjoying this battle.
Here's the look out of the back of Nigel Mansell's car as you see Gordon dropping back as he passes Brian Herta. Gordon forced to an inside line. Mansell really struggling with the car, but moving up place after place.
Al Unser Jr. trying to put his teammate Paul Tracy down a lap to show you just how powerful little Al is, but very shortly he will head down pit road. And in fact, he's on his way right now. So Al Unser Jr. on lap 67 making his first pit stop of the day, and Jack Arute waits for him.
And remember, the pit speeds are only 80 miles an hour.
And Paul, what's going to be interesting to watch is they are going to go with sticker tires, brand new tires. Checking the rest of Team Penske, they anticipate going to scuffs. All 4 tires being changed. They'll take on a full load of fuel. This should enable them to make this a 2-stop race. 13.1 seconds, gentlemen.
Great stop for Team Penske. Little Al now in and out. Of course, Fittipaldi picked up the lead when Little Al came in.
Did you notice that Little Al didn't come anywhere near killing his engine like it did in Indianapolis? With these engines, they rev them up really high, the little bitty engines, so they just engage the clutch, lets the tires do the slipping.
Well, a little bitty engine, about 800 horsepower, right?
Yeah, but it's only 160 cubic inches roughly, Paul. That's considered really small in a passenger car today.
Bigger than what I got on my moped, Bobby.
A lot of horsepower.
Little Al immediately back up to speed. Full fuel load, new tires, car feels quite different. He takes off again and starts passing cars just as he did before he stopped.
It takes 1 lap. When they put on cold tires, it takes 1 lap to get the tires, what we call seated back in, so they feel good again. And that's what it takes Little Al. And that's what it'll be for all of them when they put on the new tires.
So now the leader of the race, Fittipaldi, is scheduled for his stop as he comes on the pit road. And there he is. And once again, Jack Arute is there to watch.
Well, as we said, gentlemen, they are going to elect to go with scuff tires. Is Emerson Fittipaldi, and now the fuel man stumbles, doesn't get the nozzle in. He finally gets it connected now. This could make a long stop under green flag conditions. As we said, they have gone for scuff tires. Still now, fuel coming in, the time ticking away. This was costly as Paul Tracy cut him off coming in. Tracy's in for his stop now, guys.
And Al Unser Jr., you saw him reassume the lead of the race as Fittipaldi came into the pit, so the Penske cars are still running in the front of the field. And we wait, in fact, for most of the rest of the field to stop. Only the 3 leaders, the Penske cars, and Dominic Dobson and Buddy Lazier have made stops thus far. So the Penske's appear to be playing a conservative game on fuel.
Well, this changes often. You know, you never know how Roger Penske's thinking is going to go. But conservative, he always is early in the races. It's later on. Now, when Penske's taking his pit stops, and everybody should follow through with it, you can see how his personality is going to change because he's taken towards the latter part of the race now.
You talk about the importance of the pit stop, though. That better pit stop by Little Al has given him a 15-second lead over Emerson Fittipaldi. That's 2/3 of a lap.
Nigel Mansell hits the marks. We got a radio report saying that it's loose as a goose. He says he almost lost it on one occasion. So the crew now putting scuff tires on and, of course, servicing with fuel down off the jacks. And Mansell is rolling 13 and a fraction seconds. Excellent stop for the Newman Haas team.
What they mean, Gary, is loose. It means the rear end is loose. The car wants to spin out. The worst thing that a driver could have. And you notice they didn't tighten the front wing or raise them up on that. They absolutely have to tighten the rear end down.
Rumors continue to circulate that this man, Nigel Mansell, on the screen will be going to Formula One this year to drive races that do not conflict with IndyCar races, possibly or probably for the Williams team. There are only rumors at this point as far as we know, but he's driving a beautiful race here today, certainly.
Raul Boesel, he runs in 8th place. Stefan Johansson lined up behind him, and then Jimmy Vasser breaks into the top 10. We'll give you a rundown on the entire field here. Al Unser Jr., Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Then Mansell, then Michael Andretti, then Brian Herta in 6th. Then Boesel, Gordon, Johansson, and Vasser. That's the lineup. Only Unser Jr. and Fittipaldi run on the same lap. There's Brian Herta, A.J. Foyt's car, number 14.
He's really doing a good job. You know, this is only his 2nd IndyCar race, and he just literally looks like he was born and running here. I think Foyt's found him a good boy there, Paul.
He's majoring in economics at Ohio State, and you would think really that he is a professor, a very scholarly, slight-looking young man, wears glasses, the antithesis of A.J. Foyt, who takes everything so physically and is so buoyant. Brian Herta, introverted, but he's a great racing driver.
You know, Sammy, he has a good tendency to listen to Foyt. Foyt's a very smart race driver. knows an awful lot. And if he could transfer his knowledge over to a young man like this, I think it could really help him a lot.
Brian Herta, 6th place. Michael Andretti inside of Ari Luyendyk. Michael runs in 5th. Mansell is his competition ahead.
How many stickers are on that car, do you think, Bobby? A quick quiz on Michael's car.
Well, I couldn't tell you, Sam, but there's a bunch of them anyway.
Mike Hull told me 88 separate stickers. That's a budget all in its own.
Now, Sam, is that 88 different types of stickers or 88 in total?
Now, don't press me too much on this one. 102 on Nigel Mansell's car.
Sorry you even got started with it. Allenser Jr. in front, then Fittipaldi. Let's go to the pits and Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, two interesting things during that first series of pit stops. It looks as if maybe Team Penske played it very close to the vest. They pitted early. Meanwhile, although they're a lap ahead of everybody else, the rest of the competition could stretch it into the 80 lap mark. So they're getting pretty good fuel mileage. An update on one Penske driver that we talked about at the top of the show, your outside pole sitter, Paul Tracy. He is encountering severe understeer, pushing problems specifically as he exits turn 2 and exits turn 4.
So Allenser Jr., who picked up the lead from Fittipaldi after Fittipaldi picked it up from Tracy, continues his dominance here, just like the Indianapolis 500. The sun has come out here as we cross the 104th lap, so officially it's a race should it rain, but the indication is now that we'll have sunshine to the end of the run here today. And Jackaroo, this has been a most remarkable run, green to this point, but there's other facts as well.
Well, it's incredible. I can't remember the last time that we could be beyond the halfway mark in an IndyCar race, and nobody has dropped out of the event. All 26 starters continue running here at the Milwaukee Mile.
On board now with Raul Boesel. Brian Herta sits just ahead.
Jack, the most cars ever to finish one of the IndyCar races this year was 19 at Phoenix. So we're seeing something, your report, it's unprecedented to see so many cars running this deep in the race.
Well, Sam, I think it has to tell you something about how well-heeled a lot of these teams are becoming. You see people like Buddy Lazier beginning to show, Scott Sharp, Dominic Dobson. We've got a lot of very strong teams in competition, especially here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Exactly. It's a very mature series at this point.
I think we're seeing better racing right now than we have seen here at Milwaukee in our memories. It doesn't make any difference whether it's a leader or if it's clear back to the back.
Raul Boesel now drops to the inside of Brian Herta. Here's a battle for position as Boesel takes Herta's 7th position away from him. That's Mario just ahead. Mario is running another 2 laps back in the run itself. But Herta's not going to have any of this. He's going to stay right back in the fight.
Now, sometimes that does a little wake-up call to the driver. Sometimes you run around there and you think you're going as fast as you can, and you haven't tried enough different grooves. Somebody passes you and you say, wow, I'll try his groove, and it works better often.
Let's get an update on Brian Herta from Gary.
I'll tell you what, Paul, A.J. Foyt is like a caged lion here on pit wall. He's unhappy because Herta, in that battle, he says that Mario keeps chopping his rookie driver off. And the fiery, competitive Foyt spirit is very much in evidence down here as he stands on pit wall, watching now for the field to come out of turn 4.
Well, you know, this is a race with incredible mental strain in it simply because there are so many cars still running. You've got the guys you're battling with and all the cars you've got to be lapping too. There were just more cars on a small 1-mile track than we're used to, and that's got to be tough for Herta.
Sam, this used to be considered a pretty big track, the mile track here at Milwaukee. So today's speeds, as fast as these cars are, it's considered, like you said, a small track. They come around so fast.
Well, Mario won't be a problem for Brian Herta anymore now. He's out and away from Mario, but he's still been broken off in his battle from Raul Boesel. I'm going to try and set it up so we can take a look just at the entire field as they come through for you. We'll keep an eye on Herta. There he is on the backside. Going into turn 3. 3 and 4. And back onto the home stretch. There goes Boesel through. Mansell, here comes Herta. There's Bobby Rahal. Jacques Villeneuve comes through. There's Michael. Stefan Johansson. And there is Scott Goodyear.
Scott Goodyear, of course, has had a trouble-plagued season, culminating in his nearly not being in the Indy 500. And suddenly he rebounded to qualify 5th here. Terrific. And of course he ran 2nd here for much of the race last year until he had problems. We thought maybe he was back on track, but he's not running well now. Once the green flag dropped, he went back in the pack. He's having trouble once again.
They're having trouble. That team is just not clicking, Sam. They just have not looked good all season. And I don't think that Scott's a bad race driver. I think he's a very good one. Something is just not clicking in that team, though.
Fernandez and Lyondike move underneath Scott Goodyear there. There's Boisel.
I think we can say that any driver that can win the Michigan 500 and finish 2nd to your nephew at Indy is a good racing driver. There's another problem there somewhere in that team.
No changes at the front of the field. It's still Little Al and Emerson Fittipaldi. The battle right now continues to revolve around Brian Herta and Bobby Rahal. Now we ride for the 2nd on Raul Boisel, who sits just in front of Herta.
Well, he's running clear down to the bottom, Paul.
Been doing that all day through 3 and 4. So as Raul Boisel now begins to overhaul Arie Luyendyk, we look to the front of the field, and it's still Little Al and Emerson Fittipaldi, the Penske cars.
Fittipaldi was as much as 14, 15 seconds back. He's now in the same shot, so to speak. You see him there.
The most remarkable thing is we have gone now 125 miles of the 200, and we have been green flag all the way. The first pit stop's already completed, of course, though an interesting difference between the stops made by the Penske cars and those made by the rest of the field. The Penske cars seem to come in very early.
It's obvious that the settings that these two drivers have now favor Emerson Fittipaldi, whereas in the first segment, before the first pit stops, they favored Al Unser Jr.
One of the things that Penske doesn't want to do, if he can help it, is bring somebody in and have them go back out in traffic. He would rather bring them in clean, just like he is right now with Little Al.
So Al Unser Jr., the leader of the race, is on the pit road. 129th lap. And he elects to make a stop, Jack.
And they go to work. The Penske team so methodical, making the changes. This should be, as we said, their final lap, their final pit stop. Taking on a full load of 40 gallons of methanol. They've got it, and they're away in 12 seconds.
Well, that was a good stop for your last stop. The fuel in the tank is not really very high, so they really did a good run on that.
Most critically, though, no apparent chassis changes, right, Jack?
Sam, they haven't made any major or minor chassis changes that we've been able to see in either of their two stops. And I was very fascinated that of all the Penske cars, they're the only ones that have elected each and every stop to go with sticker tires. Seems to me that maybe Jerry Breon saved their guys, their special tires for race day. You know, you're only allowed so many sets of tires during the course of a weekend. And now Emerson Fittipaldi is about to bring his car on the pit road for service.
We watch Fittipaldi, who picked up the lead from Al Unser Jr.
One thing you got to keep in mind, that towards the end of the race, it's really important to have new tires. Now, Penske's pitting early, and it's all good now because he's keeping his drivers out of traffic and all, which I think is all good, but they won't have as good a tires towards the end of the race as some of the others will.
Let's go back to the Penske pits and Jack.
Unconfirmed reports, gentlemen, that Emerson Fittipaldi might have been experiencing a slight understeer problem. Rick Reineman working on the right side, a momentary problem with getting the lug nut off, but he completes his task. The longest part of the stop, taking on fuel. He does it in 12.6 seconds.
And again, no obvious aerodynamic changes to the car on that stop.
That slight push, though, apparently was the fast setup for that last segment of the race because he was closing in throughout.
And you can see Little Al come right by Emil as Emil came out of the pit. So they're back in about the same position that they came in a little while ago, and their pit stops are about equal also.
As he flashes over the line this time, Al Unser Jr. will be scored as the leader of the race. And to this point, only Penske cars have led in the Miller Genuine Draft 200. point in the race. We're at lap 154, and still, every car that started is still running. Let's look up in the field now. Running in 15th position, there he is, the Pennzoil car of Teo Fabi.
Teo, of course, started 10th, and it looked as if they might have finally found the handle there. Remember that this is the Jim Hall-owned car. Jim Hall, whose teams have won at Indianapolis, who dominated the Can-Am Sports Car Series years ago with the famous Chaparrals. Teo Fabi, who took this series by storm, winning 5 races back in 1983. Somehow this mixture has not come together in a potent way this year yet. It may still.
No battles anywhere in the field right now as Nigel Mansell from 4th place comes in for his stop, Gary.
Boy, Paul, what a difference a year makes. Remember, a year ago, it was Nigel who won this race in the dramatic restart over Raoul Boisel. Today, he started 9th, but this team right now, frankly, says, we're running for first in class. That's how dramatically the Penske team has him covered. This was a great stop, 12.5 seconds.
And Gary, the yellow comes out as Mansell comes into the pits for that piece of debris out on the race cars. Our first yellow of the day, so last year's run at Nazareth still remains our last yellow-free race. And the kart safety team, Indycar's right there.
Many years ago, Paul, I watched Milwaukee run from start to finish, and Mike Mosley won it. Never a yellow flag. And I'm starting to think without that little piece of debris on the track, we might have had another one just like it.
1982 that was. So on the 157th race lap, the leader, Al Unser Jr., slows down, and that's going to give a lot of cars an opportunity to stop. Here is Robbie Gordon in for his stop.
Why, did you see all the smoke coming off his brakes as they came in on the Cummins car? He really had them smoking and hot there, the Valvoline Cummins car.
Let's go to Jack Arute.
And guys, we were trying to tell you that what happened is he started to come out of the pits. He stalled the engine. They managed to carry the forward momentum, and they were able to get it refired. Also, they are continuing to chase the handling. They were going down on the front wing.
So now the rest of the field under this yellow, which shouldn't take that long, as Johnny Rutherford driving the PPG pace car. We watch Michael Andretti making his stop. Again, routine, and they have time here. And this comes just ideally for most of the cars in the field.
And you can see he's got sticker tires on it. Watch that white just flashing around the right front there. Brand new tires.
The blend line here is just beyond the exit of the pits. Here is Bobby Rahal coming out.
Remember, passing is allowed in the pits.
But the speed limit in the pits, again, is only 80 miles an hour. That's from the entrance of the pits till the exit, and then they can go as fast as they want.
Raoul Boisel, Mario Andretti, both head back to join the pack that is beginning to form now behind Johnny Rutherford.
Now remember, Little Al right there and Emerson right behind him have no cars in between them. We're going to go back to green pretty quick here. Now, their tires will have been cooled off a little bit because of the yellow flag. You're really going to see now who, between the two, has the fastest car.
Ready to go back to green flag racing on the 161st lap.
Oh, Little Al making Emerson slow down. You see Emerson tried to get a run on him, and Little Al slowed up. A lot of tactics being played out. Look at how slowly they're going right now.
Little Al wants to be able to pace back to the green at his own speed. By the way, now we do have a potential of rain just to the west of us here. The question is, will it pass over the track or will it miss us? We'll keep an eye out. 39 laps to go as we're ready to go back to green flag racing. And here we go. The green flag comes out again. If Fittipaldi has a chance, this is it.
Remember, he can shoot off a Little Al right there. Sees where Little Al is. He gets his braking by what Little Al is doing in his braking.
Is Fittipaldi, Bobby, in a position of advantage right now because he's chasing?
Very definitely, because number one, Little Al's tires, all of them, build up a little bit. But for example, Little Al goes down, makes a slight mistake. Emil has that distance right there, as you see, to cure his, so he doesn't make the same one.
That's racecraft, though, what Little Al did there on that start. He knew he wanted to control the restart, not have Emo catch him.
Remember Emerson just 1 week ago in battle with Al Unser Jr., then leading the race. Slight mistake, Fittipaldi into the wall. Remember these two at Indianapolis when they battled.
Well, remember that
wheel.
They battled there, and they're battling again here. They may both run for the Penske team, but this is a pure race between them. We should understand that there are no team orders that determine who's going to win this race.
Absolutely, Stan. Penske does not do that. We know at times that he tries to do it for a championship at the end, but this is not championship time. This is race time.
Well, this is an amazing fact. Both these men have won 21 IndyCar races. So this is the rubber match between them, folks. They've each won 21.
They're going to display the black flag for Jacques Villeneuve. He passed Jimmy Vasser on that restart, and so they'll bring him in for a stop-and-go penalty. He was running in 8th place.
Really hurts on a track like this because he can't do the stop-and-go without losing a lap.
We watch the lead of the race. Let's go back. This is Robbie Gordon. He runs in 5th place. Nigel Mansell is just ahead.
He's back up running the high groove again. Boy,
yep.
look at Michael coming underneath there. That's really close.
Let's go pit side and Jack.
Well, Paul, Derek Walker's radioed to Robbie Gordon that the closing weather may shorten this race, and he knows that he has a shot at Nigel Mansell for position. He told his young charge, go for it now, don't hold anything back.
Well, you saw Michael come right around and move into 5th place around Robbie Gordon. Villeneuve has made his stop-and-go penalty now.
Often the mechanics or the team leaders tell the guys what to do, but sometimes they just can't do it. Sometimes they're already going as fast as they can.
I still find this astounding. 168 laps complete, and every car that started is still running. Boy, there's a tribute to the crews, the engineers, the mechanics that labor long hours over these cars. And remember, they just came off of the grueling month of May at Indianapolis. Boy, they're well prepared.
Well, it shows you that the whole series is just doing well on the engines and the transmissions. To think that they haven't had an engine or a transmission problem today, it's really something.
And yellow for debris only. Obviously not a critical part off a race car because everybody's still going. Michael Andretti knows that Mansell's up there, and he has a chance. There's the look back from Mansell.
You can see when you're on board with Michael, it takes something to hold the helmets up. Between a helmet and a driver's head, a lot of G's of force really makes their neck tired if they don't have something to hold it up.
170 laps now complete in the Miller Genuine Draft 200. Al Unser Jr., we've got a car in trouble. Yellow will come out.
Stefan
Johansson.
Wow. The string finally broke.
Second yellow of the day. Obviously, Stefan is all right. He was running 13th at the time of the incident. So Stefan Johansson walks away from the first real incident of the day in the Miller Genuine Draft 200 on the Milwaukee Mile. There are some scattered reports of light moisture. Everybody's afraid to say rain or showers. Well, it's because it isn't that yet. The drivers will have the best point of view. The onboard cameras, in fact, will show you if they get some moisture on the track itself. And as we come back, we will be completing the 178th lap.
Now you know that Hamill's going to have to push really hard now because with the impending possible rain, he's going to have to, if he has a chance of getting little Al, he has to do it just in case it does rain, Paul.
Emerson Fittipaldi chases Al Unser Jr. It is a battle for the lead in the Miller Genuine Draft 200.
Deja vu. It was just like this a week ago at Indianapolis. These are the two men that are really making the season. They stand 1-2 in the championship, and they're 1-2 in this race right now.
Same contestants, different engines. Back to the Elmore D engine for these two cars.
You can watch little Al when he started the race. He ran a groove that would be more or less what he thought was in front of him to disturb the air so it'd make it a little bit harder on him. Then after he gets a little bit of distance like this, he goes back to what feels good to him or his normal groove.
And they indicate that the yellow flag comes out. There it is, and that is for rain. So on the 180th lap, there you got a good idea of moisture building up on the camera on Michael Andretti's car. So we are under yellow now the third time of the day, and this time it is because a light shower has moved into the Milwaukee area here at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds.
So many emotions from one of the greats of all time in this sport, Mario Andretti. And Paul Newman, you've been instrumental in Mario's career in recent years, and I know there's disappointment today because that Penske team is made it like you're running for first in class, but reflect for a moment about what Mario Andretti has meant not only to you and your team, but to the world of motorsports.
Oh, no, it's just a privilege to be connected with him. He's, I don't know, he certainly was snake bit at Indianapolis, and I guess he's got valve problems here, but there aren't many like Mario in racing, and the same thing is true in films. So he's the Duke Wayne of the racing circuit.
It's a great analogy. We've talked with Mario about his emotions in the final time at all of these tracks. Is it difficult for you with emotions when it comes to Mario, as you know he's making this tour and you're making it with him?
Yeah, it is. He's raced here since this is his 36th start.
Wow.
It's going to be difficult for him too, I suspect.
Well, we appreciate a few comments, and of course we pay tribute to one of the greats, Mario Andretti. Paul?
Of course, Mario, I think, was the emotional favorite going into the Indy 500 last week. Everyone was pulling for him. He was doing beautifully. He actually ran as high as third. He was fourth when he broke down on just lap 23 with another one of those little $5 parts. And it was really sad to see him go out that way. But in some ways, of course, it was typical. That was the story of Mario at Indy.
The black tire marks in the pits, indications of action earlier, but now we continue slow with just 10 laps to go in this run here, but we are still under yellow. Al Unser Jr. is the leader of the race. The IndyCar safety team trucks are both out constantly checking the track. With Roger Penske, you talk about winning. Bobby Unser scored 11 wins and won at Indianapolis. Big Al, 3 wins, won at Indy, and Al Unser Jr. just this year, 2 wins, including Indy. Is that an Unsurf graphic, or is that one for Penske, Bobby?
Well, that's one for Penske, and I wish I could start all over again. The other guys are catching up.
Let's go pit side, Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, never ceases to amaze me about the organization of Team Penske. No sooner did it begin to rain than Chuck Sprague sent out the word on the radio, break out the umbrellas. But, Chuck, more importantly, got to have kind of mixed emotions right now with the rain. One car out in front, but you're calling the shots for Emerson Fittipaldi, and he's chomping at the bit.
Yeah, he's out there rationalizing. He said, well, you know, the tires, they are slick, but there's no rooster tail yet. Yeah, just for the sake of safety, we don't want to take any chances. I mean, the way it's coming down now.
I think we're going to get the answer right now. Let's go back trackside.
Well, they're getting ready at the starter stand. Jim Swintal with a red flag and a checkered flag. The twin checkered flags are going to be displayed to Al Unser Jr., the way he won the Indianapolis 500 a week ago, and here it is today. They've decided they could not get the track to dry conditions within the remaining 8 laps, and so Al Unser Jr. has won 3 in a row. Last time anybody won 3 in a row was Michael Andretti in 1991 when he won Vancouver, Mid-Ohio, and then Elkhart. But Team Penske has done it once again, and for Team Penske, it's 4 in a row.
And
Phoenix,
a 1, 2, 3
Long Beach,
finish.
Indianapolis, and here. And look at this, Sam.
Line abreast, finishing 1, 2, 3. We have not seen this for many, many years. It's an incredible, historic moment. Look at that.
So, Al Unser Jr. leads home a brilliant Penske 1-2-3. Nigel Mansell having to settle for 5th place after being overtaken by Michael Andretti.
6th round of the IndyCar PPG World Series Championship here in Detroit, Motor City of the world. What can I say? The Newman Haas team performed superbly yesterday. And of course with our sponsors, Kmart, the headquarters here in Detroit, and Ford, I mean, it's a special, special pole position. So stay with us and enjoy the race, and I hope, optimistically, we'll be in great shape.
What a difference a year makes. 12 months ago, Nigel started at Detroit from pole as leader of the IndyCar pack. But things at Belle Isle didn't exactly go his way. He lost it on the marbles and was forced to retire, but still led the championship. Back then, Al Unser was driving for the Gallows team. A battle with teammate Danny Sullivan put him out of contention, but he never threatened in the championship standings. 12 months on, and Al is the driving force of Team Penske, coming off a 1-2-3 finish at Milwaukee a week ago as the IndyCar #1. Despite his pole at Detroit, it's Mansell playing catch-up.
After the last 2 races on the ovals at Indianapolis and Milwaukee, where the car is king, we're now back on a real driver's circuit, a twisty street circuit. We're on Detroit's Belle Isle. Emerson Fittipaldi, he snatched the pole on Friday provisionally for the Penske team, but then on Saturday, Nigel Mansell repeated what he did here last year and took pole position, this time well inside the record he set last year. Alongside Nigel on the front row, Al Unser Jr., now comfortably established at the head of the PPG points table.
Yeah, well, we're real happy with the Marlboro car. You know, it's going around the corner really well, and the Ilmore engine's running great. So, you know, it's a long race tomorrow, and we need to finish.
Third on the grid, another Penske, Paul Tracy. He drove very conservatively last week on the oval at Milwaukee, and if he is to mount a serious championship challenge, he must start here.
You know, sure, it'd be nice to win. It's nice to win anywhere, but he is, my focus right now is trying to pull up in the points.
Emerson Fittipaldi is fourth, completing a Penske 2-3-4, and another Brazilian, Mauricio Gugelmin, is the highest place of the Reynards in 5th place. And in 6th is Bobby Rahal. He has a new version of the Honda engine. The other one was just lacking too much in top-end power. This one is more like the Ford and the Ilmore, and Bobby's certainly showing that it's a much better product.
So with Mansell tight-lipped at Detroit about his future, he's happy to sit quietly out in front. We join our ABC commentators Bobby Unser, Sam Posey and Paul Page.
Remember, the start here was so controversial last year. The rule is the pole sitter has to get to the line first. The pole sitter is on his way. In fact, a good start over the line. He gets well ahead of second place as he comes to the line. One engine could already be in trouble. We've seen a couple of puffs there as Mansell takes the lead of the race.
Well, Mansell sure didn't let happen what happened last year. He had about 2 car lengths ahead of Little Al last year. He got snookered a little bit by Emerson Fittipaldi.
And Mike Groff already off the course and into the tire barrier. That will bring out a local yellow. The Indycar safety team already there helping him.
It's amazing what these tire barriers do. These drivers sometimes drive in there well over 100 miles an hour. It doesn't ever seem to hurt much, Paul.
With Team Penske in pursuit, Nigel Mansell pulling away from the field. Remember that last year he did not do well on road courses, a great surprise to everybody. But now Little Al begins to close on Nigel Mansell.
Mansell's success last year depended on his skill on the ovals, which he had never run on. You mentioned that he wasn't good on road courses, Paul. He must now reverse that trend this year if he's going to be champion. Bunch of road courses coming up in the next few weeks. He must excel if he's going to erode the Penske lead.
Paul Tracy sits in third, Emerson Fittipaldi in fourth, and then Mauricio Gugelmin as he comes off of the corner with Bobby Rahal finding new power in that Honda engine. Comes off just behind Gugelmin.
On that Honda engine, Bobby Rahal has an engine that is now firing with the same order as the Cosworth Fords and as the Ilmore engine, Paul, and it seems to have made a lot more horsepower. What that means is they fired 2 pistons simultaneously.
On the nose of Bobby Rahal's car, Teo Fabi just behind, Gugelmin just ahead.
Bobby, it means, of course, the engine sounds differently. They're aiming for torque.
Ari Leyendijk into the pits, unscheduled, obviously. We'll keep track of that. Back with Bobby Rahal. He runs in 6th.
The big changes to that engine were to get it more torque, which would help it accelerate, of course, off the turns, which would be ideal for this track. And he qualified better today or yesterday than he has in some time.
People that have normal engines drive on the highway fire 1 piston at a time. The difference being, Sam, is explain a little further, is they fire 2 pistons at one time, makes an 8-cylinder almost like a 4-cylinder.
2 cars with an early visit to the pits. One of them, you saw a moment ago, Ari Leyendijk, but Gary Gerald also Stefan Johansson?
Indeed, Paul. Real problem is they came in the right rear had just been totally shredded and demolished. We don't know where the contact was, but he obviously was in a first lap incident. They've made the change, fresh rubber. He's back out, but now at the back of the field.
And take a look at Al Unser Jr. as he comes around Mansell, and Little Al picks up the lead.
Yes, and you know, passing is so hard here. I almost missed that when it happened so fast.
Yeah, like you said, it's hard here. He just zoomed right around.
Yeah.
Now Paul Tracy comes up to challenge.
Now Paul cannot afford to sit behind Mansell too long because Little Al is getting away. Obviously Mansell's not working as good here. There he goes right there, and
Wow.
Him out. That was
clean pass, and I think Paul Tracy knows that he cannot at this stage in the season, with only 1/3 place to give him points, afford to make any mistakes. He made a mistake at Indy. He made others. He must drive clean races.
We were all sitting here cringing, Sam, when that pass happened because we didn't know if it was going to fit or not.
So now it's Emerson Fittipaldi that begins to line up on Nigel Mansell. Though here in the early laps, Mansell can take his time. Here was the pass as Al Unser Jr. came right down to the inside on the exit of the corner. Boy, nice piece of driving there. Is that chassis handling well?
And the idea is, of course, to block him out, which Al has him blocked now where he can't do anything. If you notice, straightaways are so short, Paul, he had to really get an early start at him.
Take a look at this. This is the accident involving Mike Groff, which also involved Lyondike and Johansson. But Groff hopped across one of the barrier strips and straight on into the tires.
Now, sometimes Mansell has let the others set the pace early in the race. I doubt very much that that's what he had in mind here. I think Mansell is going as hard as he can now, but we have seen him in other races play the role of the fox, drop back a little bit.
But you could tell, Sam, he wasn't going to do that here because you could see that start. Mansell was going at it from the very beginning.
Emerson Fittipaldi now closes on Nigel Mansell. That lens will push the following car back just a little bit, but still it's a spectacular shot.
Whereas psychologically, when you're in the car, the guy behind you seems huge in your mirrors. Big difference.
So Fittipaldi now in pursuit of Mansell. Al Unser Jr. has the lead. No driver has ever won at both Milwaukee and Detroit. Seems though, like we said something earlier this year, no one had ever won at Long Beach and Indianapolis. Little Al is rewriting the record books.
Well, only 3 drivers in this field have competed in all 6 Detroit Grand Prix. Interestingly, a real changing of the guard issue.
Now, Emmo's faced with the same decision that Tracy had. He's going to have to take a hard run while his tires are good at Mansell, or forget about passing Mansell at least until after the pit stops.
You see the rest of the group coming down in pursuit behind Fittipaldi, Gugelmin, Rahal, Fabi, Villeneuve, and Robbie Gordon. Rahal looking for position on Mauricio Gugelmin.
Now remember, this track, unlike a lot of the others, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, has no real long straightaways with hairpin or real long turns at the end, which is normally where the passing happens.
Watching 5th through 9th. 10th place now is Mario Andretti.
Gugelmin, the first car in this group here, is a veteran of 74 Grand Prix. His best finish ever was 3rd.
This is that great helicopter shot. Remember, the helicopter can fly at about 130 miles an hour. The Indycars just drive right away from it. For the first time in his IndyCar career, Al Unser Jr. is leading at Detroit in the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix. But there was earlier incident, and now a yellow outstanding to guard this car, Raul Boisel. Jack, what's the story here?
Well, Paul, we checked with Raul Boisel with his crew, and Mo Nunn is calling the shots down here. Mo, what did Raul tell you over the radio about the condition of the car?
Raul said the dash just went out and the engine died. Other than that, we don't know.
Has it refired?
Sorry?
Has it refired?
No.
Paul, they seem to think it might be an electronic problem, but from all the smoke that we saw, it also could be an expired motor.
Well, we'll keep an eye on Raul Boisel, who's in a precarious position. What you just saw was Teo Fabi, as he had to maneuver out and around none other than Mike Groff. There's Groff's car. He was involved in that incident earlier on, and he's back out on the course. But now they go to a full course yellow, and that is to recover the car of Raul Boisel. They thought that was too precarious a position, and so we're now full course yellow. The field will line up behind the PPG pace car and Al Unser Jr., and reform, and we'll go racing again with 8 laps complete here of the 77 in Detroit.
Mike Groff was out as well, his first lap crash resulting in mechanical difficulties and a swift exit. We rejoin the action after 6 laps under yellow.
Pace picks up. Al Unser Jr. brings them back toward the green flag.
Idea, of course, at a restart is to gain as much advantage as you can so the guy behind you can't take a swing at you going into the turn. That's obviously what little Al and Paul Tracy were trying to do.
I'll tell you what, it's exhilarating from where we watch to see these restarts. We are sitting literally right on the edge of the track, overlooking the wall, just a few feet down from the start-finish line. When the cars go past here under acceleration, they actually rock the broadcast booth back and forth. Emerson Fittipaldi taking a look at Nigel Mansell now. Guzman at the same time looking at Fittipaldi. First, Al Unser Jr. Second, Paul Tracy. Nigel Mansell, car number 1, sits there in third in the Texaco Newman Haas Lola. Now, he's quite a story lately, and there was a strong indication that there was going to be a news conference concerning Nigel Mansell immediately after this race. And then that went away. Now the next rumor is that there's going to be a news conference held in London on Tuesday. That seems to be a real possibility. Look at him smoke the tires there. He's back fully on style. The strongest rumor, and we report it just as that, seems to be that there is a good chance that Nigel Mansell will drive in Formula One in the races that do not conflict with IndyCar. The full course yellow is about to come out in the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix. That car on the left, the MyJack car 19, is Alessandro Zampedri, whom you may remember from the starting situations in Australia, but this time not his problem. Dominic Dobson spun in front of him, and Zampedri just got caught, pulled out to the wall.
Boy, Dominic made a bad boo-boo, left Zampedri with no place to go. Look at him, just collected him up. Cars were really getting together. It's lucky he didn't crawl up on top of the other car there, Paul.
Ideal time for the pit stops. Al Unser Jr. on lap 21 takes advantage of the full course yellow that is now out and comes into the pits, as does Guzman, Villeneuve, Nigel Mansell. They have all come into the pits just in the few seconds between the start of that accident and the full course yellow coming out.
Nigel's first pit stop safely negotiated, but he rejoined the race back in 6th place. Teammate Mario Andretti had decided to stay out on the track, as had rookie Brian Herter. Suddenly, they were trailing the leading pair, while Nigel had a lot of work to do. Join us back in the Motor City in a couple of minutes from now. Here is Al Unser Jr., winner of the last 3 races, leads again, while Nigel Mansell has a lot to do back in 6th place. We're under a full course yellow, approaching the restart.
Now, as the pace car works its way off the track, they head for the green flag once again. Led by Al Unser Jr., the green comes out. Mario Andretti is right behind him. But remember, Mario has not yet stopped.
And watch Paul Tracy. Mario's light on fuel. Tracy is heavy. Now watch this there. Pretty easy to pass. Tracy went right by Mario. This is the reason I think Mario's wanting to stay out, is so he can get another yellow and always stay up near the front.
Fittipaldi just ahead of Nigel Mansell. Fittipaldi is 5th.
Bobby, you made the point at the beginning that passing was going to require an act of bravery, but we have seen a lot of clear passing, and I wonder, last year there was a lot of talk about blocking on this track. I think no one is blocking, and the racing is much better for it.
So far right now, Stan, what we're seeing is clear passing by the Penske cars. We've not seen a clear pass by any other car. It would appear to me like the 3 Penske cars are out handling the other ones pretty hard so far.
Herter is around Mario Andretti as well, and now Fittipaldi lining up behind Mario. Just ahead here, you've got the glimpse from Nigel Mansell's onboard camera. Now you see the 3 of them lying just ahead. Emerson Fittipaldi just in front, and that car number 6, of course, is Mario, with Emerson looking for all the room he can find, and Brian Herta and A.J. Foyt's number 14 just ahead of that.
He'd like to put a little pressure on Mario right there. That's the 6 car right there with the red letter on it, but right behind him is none other than Nigel Mansell, so he's just afraid to get too far out of whack, and Mansell will get him right away.
Brian Herta runs in 3rd now. The car is very light, as they have not made their stop for fuel. Andretti and Brian Herta have now completed their 36th lap without yet refueling. Al Unser Jr. has completed 36 as the leader of the race, but it's been only 15 laps since he was in the pits. So here is a wonderful piece of strategy being played on Belle Isle in Detroit.
Brian Herta, of course, majoring in economics at Ohio State, but he grasps the reality of what's happening here, and I'm sure he's short shifting that car a little bit, making sure that he does get to the pits, not using any more fuel than he absolutely has to.
They're 36 laps. They need 40. If they get around 40, 39 or 40, what's a one-stop race for them?
77 laps, the total distance here. Scheduled as A.J. Foyt somewhat nervously looks on. Remember, this is a strategy that he's played here before on Belle Isle. A.J.'s car was second with Robbie Gordon at the wheel on the last lap in 1993. That time, though, Robbie spun out. Look at A.J. as he talks to his driver, and Robbie Gordon is in the pits, Jack.
Brian Herta, 12 months ago at this very same racetrack, captured an Indy Lights race. He is now at the wheel of the legendary A.J. Foyt's number 14. Takes some liquid. They are going to make a wing adjustment. They've gone down, believe it or not, Bobby Unser, 2 turns on the upper right-hand wing. 14.5 seconds they're away. They say they're going to still try and make it a one-stop race.
So he comes in on lap 37. Boy, I got to be careful around A.J. for that mistake, don't I?
Well, you know, at lap 37 is going to put him a little bit close. They're counting on and hoping they get about at least 1 yellow to make it their guaranteed one-stop race.
Further update, Jack.
Well, Bobby, they had wanted to try and make it to lap 40, as you surmised, but actually Brian Herta had a problem the last lap out. He brushed the wall. It kind of panicked him a little bit, and A.J. said, okay, bring it in.
Jack, you mentioned his success here in Indy Lights last year when he won the race. Of course, he went on to win the Indy Lights championship. So this is a very savvy driver, and also a driver that is an example of how that Indy Lights feeder system works to bring great young drivers into IndyCar competition.
All right, so Brian Herta comes back out in the action, but he falls to 14th during the stop. That makes the next observation this fellow here, Mario Andretti, who on lap 38 heads into the pits. Gary Gerald's right there.
They tried to nurse it as far as they possibly could. He is the last man to come in for pit service today. They didn't get the lap 40. Mario on his Arrivederci Mario Tour. They've named turn 1 here on Belle Isle in his honor. Everything looking routine. Flipping the throttle, off the jack, and rolling 14.3 seconds.
Jr. still at the top of the field. Paul Tracy chases, followed by Fittipaldi. Nigel Mansell is 4th. Jacques Villeneuve, young man with one terrific season under his belt as a rookie in the IndyCars, currently sits in 5th place. That is a team, the Forsyth Green operation, with this new driver. They had him, of course, as a driver in the Atlantics last year. They've really come together so well, and they've been so strong all year. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Paul, we were just checking with Barry Green, who is the co-owner of this team, and of course such a great fixture in IndyCar racing for so many years, and he's been so full of pride over the performance of the team and the young driver. We asked him how the car had been responding since that first stop. He says, we're hanging on with a big grin. They know that Robbie Gordon is lurking close by, but they were very proud of their pit stop that gained them a couple of positions into the top 5.
There gives you the interval back to Villeneuve. Just behind him, of course, is Robbie Gordon. Nice little fight here right now.
These are 2 hot young Chargers, and it's good to see them racing together. Could provide some action.
And you can certainly see the different lines.
Oh, and Mario's off course and into the tire barriers. His last race at Detroit, but remember, they got Mike Groff out of the barriers and got him going. You can't tell how much damage might exist to the front of the car, but the fact that he's in so deeply, especially with the left side, there may be some damage there.
It's so easy sometimes. It's going to damage the wings for sure, and sometimes maybe the suspension, like it did on Mike Groff, but maybe it didn't hurt very much. You know, it's so easy to get into the tires here on a course like this. I'm sure we can see his front wings have been hurt quite a bit there, because you can see the tires wrapped around it. They're really good. So it's not good news for Mario.
Another issue is the car stalled, and how tough will it be to get it going again? Because if the damage is superficial, he could make it back to the pits and get a new nose cone. Trouble is, look at the time that's being lost.
And look at the skid marks. He just came straight off the corner on the exit, Bobby.
Yes, he did, but that's also could have been from oil that somebody dropped on the road, or there could have been another car that he was lapping that was having a bit of a problem. That's very often what happens at a track like this.
Well, remember last year, Bobby, they really had just a single groove to run in by this first part of the race because the tires had worn so much. The rest of the track was what we call marbles. And this year it's better. The tire compound is different for this race than it was last year. It's a little bit harder. But even so, by this point in the race, if you get off the line very much, you can get in trouble.
And they've got Mario started again.
And
we'll look at the car for damage.
Look at that car. It's still basically together. Now, how in the world could you have a wreck like that and not have any more problems? Look at the wings are still on it. The wings are still there. It's amazing what those tires will do to cushion a crash.
You know, for years, barriers with no protection.
That would have normally been hitting a cement wall or something like that would be a $100,000 wreck. Really
what a simple solution, to use tires.
And they band them together. If you don't band them together with the steel straps, they don't work.
Fernandez into the wall. He moves around. Apparently he's okay, though the right rear of the car looks like it suffered some heavy damage.
This time, the cash register is ringing. He has hurt the car.
Again, the Indycar safety crews are right there, but this is a very precarious position.
A lot of warning before they get there. The flagmen around here really give the drivers a lot of warning so they don't get hit by another car.
Little Al comes in for a stop, Jack.
Scheduled stop for Al Unser Jr. Number 31, as you said, Al Jr. trying to change history by making it a winning car number in IndyCar competition. They are going to make, gentlemen, no changes on the car. They have completed the fueling. That's what they want to make sure they get a full load. They do in 15.0 seconds.
Jack, of course, you mentioned that winning streak. This would be his 4th consecutive win if he can manage it. Only one other person has done that in recent history, and that is himself. He had a winning streak 4 in a row back in 1990.
As Little Al comes up to speed, Paul Tracy takes over the lead of the race. Little Al stopped on the 49th lap. But here's a change. The yellow comes out. So Al Unser Jr., if he could have held off for a lap, would have made the stop under yellow.
Yes, but it isn't going to hurt him too bad, Paul, because the other guys like Paul Tracy are going to have to go in. And this is going to turn out to be one of those situations where first in, first out. So she should end up being up near the front with the exception of the ones that are out of phase on his pit
That's
stop.
what I was going to ask you. This is going to help those guys immensely.
It'll help them immensely right now.
Men like Brian Herta.
Now Mario, of course, with his incident, has dropped back through the field and is not in competition for the lead of the race in any way. In fact, he's not in the top 20. They wait for Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi. There's Fittipaldi, Jack.
The teammates come together. Now, Emerson Fittipaldi was complaining about a slight push, so we'll wait to see if the crew will make any major changes. Paul Tracy is off and away as we continue to watch the service on Nigel Mansell's car as well. A very busy time in a full course yellow. Mansell continuing his work. Meanwhile, further up pit road, Emerson Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy have completed their work, while Robbie Gordon continues to get his service in his Valvoline machine.
Whoa, Fittipaldi on the roll comes out right alongside of Mansell. Mansell got scored with the lead of the lap because he's pitted on the other side of the line. Let's go to Gary.
Well, Paul, that situation resulted when Mansell started to accelerate out of the pits just as Jacques Villeneuve, 2 pits ahead, pulled in. They came within inches of hitting each other. Villeneuve stopped on a dime. Mansell hammered it and got out of there. He left rubber streaks all the way down pit road as he accelerated. But again, they were just inches from disaster.
Similar thing almost happened between Michael Andretti and Teo Fabi as they came out of the pits.
Of course, a lot of times when a driver leaves the pits, if he can do it in somewhat of a safe manner, he would love to block the guy coming out behind him because, remember, it's so hard to pass. If you get out of the pits first, boy, that's a big game.
Bobby, there are a lot of rules. Maybe you're not the guy I should be asking this question, come to think of it, but let me try it. There are a lot of rules on the conduct of the cars on the course. We're going to take a look first at the Adrian Fernandez situation and what brought out this full course yellow.
He obviously went in there, got very loose. You could see his rear end was coming around, even though we couldn't see a bunch of it. You could see his rear end coming around. He got loose and just out to the fence and kerbam.
This was Nigel as he was coming out. He was already at the point we picked it up there around Villeneuve. Now let's take a look. This is an entirely different view of that same stop and shows you how he got trapped.
Watch for Villeneuve.
Whoa.
Yeah. split-second stuff. You know, out on the track, you fall into sort of a rhythm, but in the pits, that never happens.
And the one thing that we didn't see is those right ahead. Look at the tires right out in front of him. That's what was causing the problem. Somebody else's tires for somebody else's pit stop. That's what caused the first part, and then comes by Emerson after the Villeneuve thing. So Nigel was like the civic center down in L.A.
Look, too, at the frustration on the crew when they realized what's happened here.
Yeah, because they know they've lost the spot to Fittipaldi. And it was going to be so hard for Nigel to get by him on the track, and they had it done in the pit. So that's a doubly frustrating thing.
Villeneuve's the one that really did a good job on that. He knew when to stop and not press the issue anymore, and that saved the whole thing.
Let's go to Gary.
Barry Green is watching anxiously for a restart on the green flag. He must communicate to Villeneuve. Was your heart in your throat when he had to jump on the binders and Mansell came rocketing out of there?
Yeah, it was all pretty hectic. A lot of cars in and out, you know, and we were encouraging him to get down here. But it was a good call. I mean, he saved us. We just got a little bit crossed up there.
Okay, we'll let you get back. He's watching
green here, Gary.
Watching anxiously for that green, as we do. Thank you,
Gary, of course, Villeneuve concentrates so hard on his driving, he actually comes out from the pits, I mean, from where the transporters are, with his helmet on. He comes out fully ready to drive, gets in the car and goes.
Sam, it's something that we've not seen. In Indianapolis, it was amazing because it was at least a half hour before drivers got in the cars. He left Gasoline Alley with that helmet in place. He says it helps him focus. He's done it here this weekend. I think I hear engines escalating.
As they throttle up, the green flag comes out once again on the 53rd lap with Al Unser Jr. leading the field around. Let's give you the order at the front. Unser Jr. followed by Tracy, followed by Fittipaldi, Mansell, Gordon, Teo Bobby, Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Jacques Villeneuve, and then, of course, Gugelmin.
Now watch there, though. You got little Al in the 31 car, Paul Tracy, right behind him. Now they've got a lot of traffic that is down almost a lap or whatever in front of them. This is where the problems are going to come.
Well, just as the race ended last week at Milwaukee, the Penske cars are running 1, 2, 3, and you wonder, is that good for the sport that one team is so dominating it? I don't think it matters a bit because realize these drivers are racing each other. This is not formation.
Whoa!
Case in point, gentlemen.
Right there, he got tagged. Al Unser Jr. tagged from behind. Paul Tracy was the culprit, and that sent him off into the barrier.
There goes the streak of 4 consecutive wins.
And he is very mad.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Little Al has incredible luck. This is the guy that one is going to have to worry about when Little Al gets a hold of him.
Look at the tire mark on the front of Tracy's nose. Little Al's going to be very upset over that.
This is the 3rd consecutive year that Tracy has seized the lead on this track.
They're closing on Vassar. Now watch the car on the left.
Tracy's coming up. Went right down and booted Little Al, booted him off, and there he goes into the tires. Nothing Little Al could do, plus he didn't expect it to happen.
I don't think that's going to be a very popular move within the team. Do you, Bobby?
Well, it won't be. 2 cars on the same team, Sam, unfortunately have to be a little bit more careful than they would be if they were competitors on different teams.
The good news seemed to be that Little Al's car looked to be fairly intact. And watch it as it passes through the barrier here.
But obviously he's on the brakes, Paul, so hard he's probably got the engine killed on the thing right now.
There he is. Let's take a look at the wings and everything. He looks to be in pretty good shape.
We've seen those tires perform miracles when you run into them. It's hard to believe.
I don't see a problem there. Do you, Bobby?
I really don't. I see no problem.
Of course, we don't know about the finite parts of the steering, but he looks like he's in pretty good shape.
This is when a driver has to really pull himself together emotionally, too. I wouldn't be surprised if Little Al's pretty angry right now. He's got to steady himself out.
Sam, that won't bother him. He's been in a lot of wrecks before. The thing that's bothering him is he doesn't know whether his wings are bent or not right now. See?
Let's go to the pits once again, Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, one of the things that Team Penske does, according to Richard Buck, is they go over, kind of like the way we do before a race as far as what we think is going to happen. They go over all of the scenarios. They are waiting for Al Jr. to make his presence known on pit road, but they have already rehearsed a wing exchange earlier this week. They have the wing ready. Richard Buck has just received the word from Al Jr. that he wants his wings replaced. He'll be coming onto pit road on this circuit.
Well, that's a surprise because there's nothing really obvious about the rings. Obviously, he's uncomfortable with it. And Nigel Mansell. Nigel Mansell finds the tires, and he unstraps and is ready to climb out.
This looks like a repeat of last year. People having problems towards the end.
Well, just exactly. Wow.
Now that's hard to do. I couldn't even do that.
That's awesome. He's an athlete and a half.
That's difficult.
So Nigel Mansell climbs out of his car and across the tires. Let's go to Jackaroos.
Well, Al Jr. has come in, and we're looking at the wings. Not a problem with the wings, gentlemen, other than on the right side, one wingtip has been bent. One of the control arms is slightly bent. They tried to fix it manually. We're under full course yellow. This will give them the luxury, the Penske team, of, if they want to, talking their way through whether they want to change the wing or not. They simply change the tires.
More of a luxury because of this yellow, the fourth yellow of the day. This one because of Nigel Mansell, who was running with Fittipaldi. And it looks like he may not have tagged Fittipaldi, but it was close.
Yeah, it looks like there's a real good chance he might have touched him a little bit, but he was certainly locked up and spun, trying to avoid him as best he could.
Well, another way to find out is from this onboard camera.
Mansell, of course, desperately needed the points from here. Now he probably won't get any. They're about 2 turns away from where it happened, so watch closely.
Whoa. Got in trouble before he got Fittipaldi.
Well, actually, Fittipaldi, for some reason, slowed down an awful lot, and that caused Nigel to have to slow down unexpected. He wasn't expecting to have to brake that hard that soon.
As you can see, Nigel is back in the cockpit and ready to try it again. Let's look at this one more time, Sam.
Well, obviously, he locked him up suddenly there before he hit Emerson. He was certainly not attempting a passing maneuver when that happened.
High drama, disaster for Mansell, and a full course yellow. Nigel did get back into the action, but running repairs meant his race was all but over. Now the man everyone had to catch was Paul Tracy, his closest rival, teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. Join us after the break for another battle royal between the Penskes.
Back at the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix, where Paul Tracy is our current leader. As a result of that confrontation with Little Al, his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi sits in second place. Robbie Gordon started in 10th place, is now up in third. Teo Fabi sits just behind him in the Pennzoil car in fourth position. Michael Andretti, who started 17th, is fifth. And Bobby Rahal, the Honda's working for him. Let's go to Gary.
Nigel Mansell just pulling away from the pits here. He came in, left the engine running for some time. They took the front nose off, then they shut the engine down, got it replaced. Front wings new, now fired up, and he is back out there. So he will try to get out there, possibly collect 1, 2, 3 points, who knows. Still a very, very tough task. And remember, he won one other pole this year, Paul. That was on the streets of Australia, and then in the rain. He made a couple of mistakes with spins that cost him any opportunity for early season points. And now, with this problem, his championship hopes of repeating looking real dim. But as Sam pointed out on the opener of the show, it's still early in this season.
The 3-car, Paul Tracy has assumed the lead. We'll also be keeping track of that battle right there. Emerson Fittipaldi with Robbie Gordon just behind him, Teo Fabi, and then Michael Andretti. As they begin to pick the pace up now, they'll be coming back to a green flag.
Paul Tracy may win this race, but I believe he will arrive at the pits to a stony reception from the Penske team. Remember, Little Al was put out of this race by his teammate Danny Sullivan last year, right toward the end. So history has just taken it's repeated itself here.
Scott Goodyear, the 40 car, wisely gets out of the way. He is a lap behind the leader. He sees that battle coming through. Good sportsmanship there.
You need sportsmanship on this track because of the narrow confines. You have to give the other guy a chance.
Quite a narrow track. You can watch as you watch the guys go around. Concrete on both sides, sometimes steel and concrete, but it generally is just a very narrow track.
Robbie Gordon in a battle for second place with Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi just in front of his tire up there as they run along the river here, the water just over to the left.
What Gordon has added this year to his arsenal of skills is patience. I've said this before, but you see, this race is a perfect example. He was mired down in 5th and 6th place throughout much of it. He made no mistakes. He came slowly up. Suddenly, he's battling for a position on the podium.
And even though he's not making mistakes, Sam, he's still charging hard. Robbie Gordon is definitely one of the best newcomers that we've seen in a long time, and he's with a good team, and we're on board with him right there in the Valvoline Cummins car, and it's a good camera shot that we have.
Paul Tracy is 1.5 seconds ahead of Emerson Fittipaldi. So in just those few laps since the green, Tracy's been able to pull away just a bit. This is the battle on the course for second between Fittipaldi and Gordon. Dale Fabi has been held up by Scott Goodyear and is trying to get around as he runs in 4th place and would like to get back in this fight. So looking ahead to Dale Fabi, 4th would be Fabi's best finish since Long Beach in '93.
We talked about the Canadians, of course. Here's Scott Goodyear, a Canadian. Now a Canadian is in the lead. If you look south from Belle Isle, it's an anomaly of the relationship of Canada and the United States that you can actually see Canada to the south from this one place. And that's why there's so many fans over here from Canada. It's really close by.
These views from the aerial films helicopter, occasionally will take that run along the backside.
That's looking west there over toward the United States. Over to the right of this shot is east in Canada.
The idea of you two in a geography lesson.
It's frightening, isn't it?
I don't think we know where we're going. North and south.
Let's stay on racing. You can barely get through that.
Michael Andretti here in the target car, you see right in the center of the screen, has shown this season that even when things do not go his way, he soldiers on. He's had a really tough time with this car from time to time. I know he almost threw his helmet in frustration on Friday. I saw him. I was standing right next to him. He managed to pull it back just in time, keep control of himself.
Doesn't look like it's working too good right now, Stan. I can see it quivering quite a bit. That isn't like Michael.
Well, he runs in 5th place. He wants to get around that car, the 40 car, the Budweiser car of Scott Goodyear in front of him so that he can get back in his fight with Dale Fabi. This is holding him up a little bit.
Goodyear, this is not a battle for position. He's putting a lap on Goodyear.
Goodyear runs 11th right now. Bottom half of the top 10, Rahal in 6th. Villeneuve, he runs 7th, followed by Guzman 8th. Brian Hurditt is 9th. That gamble didn't pay off. Al Unser Jr. is 10th.
Decisively faster was Michael up through those very fast turns.
Here comes Michael. And here comes Rahal.
Well, Goodyear absolutely is letting him get by. He realizes that he's down. He's letting him get by, which is good sportsmanship and is what you should do if you're down a lap.
Yeah, but of course what happened there is Bobby Rahal was able to come up and get in direct contact with Michael Andretti. So this is now what would have been a battle between Michael and Teo for 4th has become a battle between Michael and Rahal for 5th.
And a battle between a Ford engine in Michael Andretti's car and a Honda engine in Bobby Rahal's car. This is the recently modified Honda that we talked about. Different ignition timing, different exhaust sound, more torque than it had last week at Milwaukee when it had a pretty good run. Development year for Honda. They are getting better with every race.
The target car is Michael Andretti. The Miller car, of course, Rahal. Jack LaRue, you have something for us?
I wanted to update you on the situation with A.J. Foyt and Brian Hurditt's car. The gamble didn't pay off for one major reason. During that last long caution period, full course yellow, Brian made a typical rookie mistake. He was unable to close up quick enough and found himself mired back in 11th spot. A.J., figuring that discretion was the better part of valor, brought him in for a splash and go just before they went back to green flag racing.
So A.J. Foyt still playing a strategy there. As we continue to watch this battle for 5th place, Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti. At the front of the field, it is still Paul Tracy, with now Nigel Mansell well down in the order, back into the pits once again. We watch the leader, Paul Tracy. He has a 10-second lead over 2nd place Emerson Fittipaldi. Robbie Gordon is 4 seconds back behind Fittipaldi. Then the battle in this field develops between Teo Fabi, Michael Andretti, and Bobby Rahal. We take a look at the race summary at the conclusion of 66 laps. This is a 77-lap race. 83 miles an hour was the average speed then. It has come back up to 84 miles an hour since then. And the record in this race is 83 miles an hour. So despite 4 yellows, they are running at a record pace. Paul Tracy, car 3, still at the front of the field. But we keep an eye on Nigel Mansell, who came in just a few moments ago and had his belts tightened down and now is back into the pits again, rolling very slowly toward Gary Gerould. Gary, do you have any idea why he is back in the pits once again?
Don't have a clue this time, Paul. We just came down here. We were 2 pits away, and we await with the team. And not in sight from our vantage point yet.
The car's not going to make it. He's going to have to get
crew's
some.
on the run now, Bobby. They're headed toward the car.
They've got him. Some of the officials have him, and then the crew will take over.
He definitely has a dead engine. He doesn't have any power, so that's the reason he couldn't get down to you there, Gary.
So Nigel Mansell sits by the side of the track and becomes no factor whatsoever in this race now as he falls steadily down through the field. The key player is Paul Tracy, car number 3. Remember, Nigel Mansell last year was trying to get around one of the safety vehicles, and in doing so got pushed off of the line into the slippery part of the course and eventually into the barrier.
The track conditions are much better, though, toward the end of this race than they were last year, I believe because of the harder compound that Goodyear brought to the race this year.
Tracy is running without any traffic, clean air all the way, so he's able to really make time up on the second place. Look at there, how far back it is before you see anybody even in sight.
There's Fittipaldi.
Long way back.
Tracy picked up another 2 seconds out from Fittipaldi in just that last lap. He's now 12.3 seconds ahead of Fittipaldi.
Last year when Tracy went on his mid-season tear, winning so many races there, it was after a 3rd place. It was at Portland last year. He was 3rd at Milwaukee last week. So there's something about a calm finish that seems to settle him down. Then he gets hot.
Paul Tracy is running the fastest laps of his race. In fact, his fastest lap thus far was just 3 laps ago at 104.3 miles an hour.
Nigel, of course, is in championship trouble being out of the race, but he can take some solace in the fact that the leader of the championship, Al Unser Jr., has had, trouble as well and has been delayed. He's currently running at just 10th.
Back through the order, Robbie Gordon runs in 3rd place. Teo Fabi is 4th, and this car, Michael Andretti, is in 5th place right now, trying to pursue Teo Fabi. Bobby Rahal is just behind Michael.
You see how close behind Michael Andretti Bobby Rahal is in that black and yellow car that we're now looking out over the nose of. Honda-powered car with Rahal. Rahal almost never, ever makes a driving error. He's fast and he's very, very skilled.
Let's go to the pits. Gary Gerald is with Nigel.
Nigel has come out now with the helmet off. A motor problem ends up being the culprit finally?
Yeah, we've had an exciting day, haven't we? One thing and another, but we're having a great dice there with Emerson, and I think maybe the back marker in front of him made him brake a little early, and that's why I tagged his back. But then we got going again, but then I think something's happened with the engine. The throttle cable's either broken or something, but it's not working too good at the moment.
You got out of the car after the incident, then got back in. Then we saw you with a second pit stop securing the belt. Were you harnessed in to begin with?
Yeah, I was partly. One of the belts was undone, and I radioed to the pit where were we, and they said 20th place, and it wasn't worth taking that risk for so many laps being out of the points, so we came in and put the other belt in, and then as it happens, we've had a mechanical problem anyway.
It's got to be a huge disappointment because of this point situation when you look at where you are now in comparison to the great success, particularly on the ovals at this point last year.
Yeah, but it's been an exciting race, and I think it was very good up until we had a problem, and there's a lot of racing still left in the season, and the Newman Haas team worked superbly. They deserve better today, but that's motor racing. We've been in it a long time, and we know that next week will be a new week.
Any announcements about your racing future in the next few days?
It's over at the moment.
All right, thank you, Nigel.
75 laps complete for Paul Tracy. There's Mauricio Gugelmin, Brian Herta just behind him, and Al Unser Jr. just behind Brian Herta. Little Al fell back to 10, and now he's closing on these two in their battle.
It's another big day, of course, for the Penske team. Not quite the way it was in Milwaukee last week when they were 1-2-3, but still they have been the dominant team, and their biggest opposition, which was Nigel Mansell, we just talked to him out of the race. I don't believe necessarily that the domination of a series by one team is bad for the series. It helps people that are not involved day to day with the racing to have a good idea of what's going on. Many teams that ran a big streak, like the Yankees and so on, did not hurt the sports that they were involved in.
White flag, one more lap to go, comes out for Paul Tracy. He runs alone. 12 seconds ahead of his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. Bobby Unser, Little Al, those are some pretty critical points positions, sitting just in front of him, currently occupied by Kuselmin and Herta.
And, you know, however hard that he would charge right now would be determined by how much he thinks his front end is bent. We know the car's capable of doing it, but if he thinks he's got a problem, he can't brake hard, he can't take any chances. That's his problem.
So run safe rather than risk the car just to grab a couple of extra points there.
He's a smart young man. If he knows he's got a problem, and I know that Roger Penske would be telling him what he thought his opinion was of that same situation. Don't take a chance, don't bend it.
You can see the evidence of the contact with Little Al earlier. Every time we get a good look at the nose of Paul Tracy's car, that may be a scar that will come back to haunt him in future years. But for the moment, it gives him a potential victory with less than half a lap to go now on Belle Isle in Detroit. Final set of turns for Paul Tracy. So very close to Canada and many Canadians in this crowd. So he'll get a hearty reception as he comes down through the checkered flag. And there it is, the twin checkered flags come out, and Paul Tracy takes the win. Today will be the first time that Penske cars have won 5 races in a row. Emerson Fittipaldi comes by in second place, so it's Penske 1-2. Robbie Gordon charges for the line in third place. He is unchallenged at the moment. Roger Penske walks back ready to celebrate as the rest of the team celebrates here. We look back to the start-finish line, as here comes Michael Andretti chasing Teo Fabi to the finish of this race, and he finishes in 5th position. So the top of the field, Tracy, Fittipaldi, Gordon, Fabi, and Michael Andretti. And with the Canadian flag, Paul Tracy now takes a victory lap here on Belle Isle in Detroit.
Congratulations on your first win of the year.
Well, it's a tough way to win that way, but, you know, we were in there battling. I was pacing myself, and, you know, 20 laps to go. I knew we had to make a move soon, so it's a tough way to win that way, and gonna have to do some apologizing to Al.
Yeah, describe what happened there.
To be the owner of a championship-winning IndyCar team, you need to do 2 things. Get the best driver and put him in the fastest car. In 1993, that's what Carl Haas did. With Mansell in the Lola Ford, the PPG Cup was won before the end of the season. Mansell, the master of the ovals. In 1994, the #1 driver for Newman Haas can still claim pole position. He's done it at Surfers, Milwaukee and Detroit and put himself on the front row of the French Grand Prix. But so far this year, victory eludes the Lola Ford Mansell combination. This year, the Penske-Ilmor-powered Dream Team trio of Tracy, Fittipaldi and Unser Jr. is taking all of the glory. Between them, they've won 6 of the 7 outings so far, Little Al seemingly romping away with the title. This year, Roger Penske seems to have the edge over Newman Haas. If Mansell is to halt the Penskes in their tracks, the hunted must become the hunter, and Unser is the target. And so to Cleveland for the next stage of the IndyCar World Series, to the Burke Lakefront Airport.
Well, welcome here to the 8th round at Cleveland. It's an incredible setting, isn't it? Open air field. The circuit set out literally the day before we arrived here. But nevertheless, it proved to be one of the most exciting events that we had on the calendar in 1993. Stay with us for another great event here in Cleveland.
Defending champion at Cleveland is Paul Tracy. He starts from 2nd place this year after being knocked off provisional pole in final qualifying by teammate Al Unser Jr. Unser claimed his 3rd pole of the year by setting a lap record of 143.987 miles an hour. Mansell returns to IndyCar after his foray to France and starts in the fastest loader in the field from 4th on the grid, alongside Emerson Fittipaldi, who took 2nd place last year at this circuit. We join our ABC commentators Sam Posey, Bobby Unser and Paul Page.
We watch for the green Green is out, though. Seemed that Al Unser Jr. got a bit of a start. Now let's take a look at him. Spread out wide. Well, maybe they learned a little bit of a lesson from last year. Nope, not everybody. Michael in trouble. Michael wasn't here last year. So 2 cars together on the start. Scott Goodyear is one of them. Michael Andretti is the other.
Well, that's just very similar to what I thought was going to happen into the first turn.
Scott Goodyear back under power as we go back to the race itself. And Mansell has made his move and dropped into 3rd place. Out in the east loop of this track. Now making the turn along the main grandstand. Ahead of them is a right, then a quick left. Al Unser Jr., Fittipaldi, Mansell, and then Tracy.
It is an interesting statistic that only once has a leader of the first lap of this race gone on to win it.
Now here's the best place to pass. You can see Mansell going right down in there. He was feeling him out. He didn't pass there, but he's just going to try it pretty soon. Watch it because it's the easiest place on the track to do the passing.
Strung out single file right now, but still in hot pursuit is Nigel Mansell, who also has much to prove today. This time last year, he already had a couple of wins under his belt. He really wishes he were in that position now.
Mansell, by his standards, is having a terrible season. Winless, as you said. He had a foray into Formula One a couple of weeks ago in the French Grand Prix. He ran as high as 3rd, but broke down. It's not the kind of season which Mansell, who thrives on success and the adrenaline it brings, is having.
And has created ongoing speculation about where Mansell will drive next year. Will it be in the Indycars? Or will it be in Formula One? The BBC is reporting today that Nigel Mansell will in fact be driving in Formula One next year.
Well, Paul, I believe that, and I believe that you're going to see Michael Andretti in his car next year. But I think what you're seeing this year with the Lola cars versus the Penske's, which right there, the car on the right was Mansell. The red and white cars, of course, are the Penske cars. And what you're seeing is the Penske cars are more flexible. They are racing these cars exactly the same way that they qualify them. And Mansell, for example, the Lola cars, they have a problem. They get them tuned up really good, but the cars are almost too finely tuned, and they can get out of tune on the chassis just real easy.
Fittipaldi is the most successful of all the drivers historically at this track with his 3 wins, most laps led. So you know he goes into the race with an extremely confident attitude, if perhaps not quite the speed of Al Unser Jr. and Paul Tracy, his teammates.
You know, if you watch the bumps as the cars go around the track here, realize that the driver's seat, their rear ends, are only like 1.5 inches from the ground. So when the car touches the ground, which it does, it has skid pads on the front and the back, it really hits the spines. Now, little Al has been in and out of the doctors all weekend because he's got problems with his spine from all the bumps here.
Well, Scott Goodyear, as you know, had his problems on the start, went in and out of the pits. Jack Arute, you have an update?
Well, Paul, they checked after he had the problem on the start. Scott Goodyear came in, but on the way out after the mandatory check on the condition of the car, they found nothing wrong, but Goodyear exceeded the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit. So once again, he was brought into pit road that last lap, and he was given what's called a stop-and-wait penalty. A stop for 5 seconds, and then he was sent back on his way. Things are not going well for the Budweiser crew. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, Jack, as far as Michael Andretti is concerned, who was involved in that incident on the green flag in turn number 1, the crew expected once Michael got restarted that he would come in. They laid out fresh tires over the wall, but Michael stayed on course. So obviously the car has responded okay. He just lost a considerable amount of time. He stays out there now at the back of the pack.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody to look at the bottom of the cars if you want to see what the suspensions go through on these race cars, how rough it is, how short a travel they have to have. Just watch the underneath the cars, and you can see the daylight to the point where they look like they're touching. It's interesting to watch this.
Also, as you're watching the cars closely, remember that the exciting thing about the season so far has been the superiority of the Penske's, and in particular, what has made the Penske's better? The talk is that it's their traction off the turns, that they get better acceleration off the turn. Watch for that here. Mansell's been unable to match it in qualifying and practice. Now he seems to have traction identical to theirs.
And this track, Sam, seems to emphasize itself on shock absorbers more than any other track. Just watch the underneath of the cars again and imagine It's not so much the body moving as it is the tires. The shock absorbers really catch heck here. For example, numerous Reynard cars already this race have broken their shock absorbers. That's how rough this track is. And yet it looks like it's smooth enough for airplanes, which it is.
Well, of course, the rival teams would like to think that the Penske cars are somehow cheating in some ways, that they have a traction control device which would be illegal, that would be effective. Chances are that is not true. It's probably a combination, as you mentioned, Bobby, the shocks, the differential, some suspension, the way they use their tires. But it is tempting if you're a rival of the Penskes to think, boy, they must have some widget, and I wish I had that widget too.
They're not doing it, Sam. I was given the job by you and Paul this week. Check that out, and I've come to the conclusion that the only way that you can do a traction control is to measure the front tire to the engine or the rear tire to the engine or to each other. These guys have nothing in the car to do that. So, in fact, I'm sure that they're not cheating. They just have good cars this year.
You saw Al Unser Jr. as he had to work his way through traffic. Now the battle between Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell is suffering the same fate. And traffic could very definitely be a factor, though most of those that they've encountered have been wise enough to look in their mirrors and get out of it right away.
Every time they go into that turn one right there, that's where we're really looking for the passing to happen most of the time. But if you'll notice Tracy when he went in there, he's really looking at his right-hand mirror to see if Mansell's going to take a run at him right there.
Al Unser is 4.9 seconds ahead of his teammate, Paul Tracy. You're on board Nigel Mansell now.
And just remember, what you're seeing are the driving actions of a man who is the defending national IndyCar champion and the year before that Formula One champion. This man may not be having a great season right this minute, but he's as good as they come, and he really has a wonderfully aggressive style.
We'll just watch him right here for the moment as Mansell trying to catch Tracy.
Down that long back straightaway, second fastest place on the track.
This is the fastest road course that they run on all year.
Mario Andretti now challenging Mauricio Gugelmin. This is a fight for 7th place. Gugelmin, the 88 cars, they both duck inside slower traffic, and Gugelmin holds Mario Andretti off. Gary Gerald, you have an update on Herta while we watch this battle? Well, no, let's hold it just a second. Mario makes his move to the outside. Can he sweep in the corner across the front of Gugelmin?
Remember, too, a battle between different chassis. Gugelmin now, Mario back on the inside. A beautifully executed pass by Mario. Mario in the Lola, Gugelmin in the Reynard, a car all new for the season this year, and he's got the inside line. Nope.
You should not eliminate the fact that Stefan Johansson is sitting just behind him as well. So that's a good tight battle. Gary Gerald, Brian Herta has rolled to a stop on the front stretch. Can you update us now?
Can't tell you what that problem is. It's just the culmination of a horrendous weekend. Contact with Lavaggi in yesterday's practice session. Had to go to the backup car to qualify. Then this morning, a motor problem. Had to change engines. They started the race with radio problems. Now, here's a new complication. This has been a real tough couple of days for one of the local favorites.
Ellen, you saw in that fight, too, that Johansson also got his way around Gugelmin, so that puts Mario up a position into 7th. And Johansson into 8th, and Gugelmin drops back to 9th. And just behind him now is Bobby Rahal. As you can see them trying to push Brian Herta's car over to the edge of the course and get it out of harm's way. And we have a change in position. Well, Al Unser Jr. is still a full 5 seconds out in front of 2nd place. The new 2nd place, as you see there, is Nigel Mansell. Paul Tracy has been pushed back to 3rd. Mansell was able to get around using the traffic. And there is Dominic Dobson, who spun in the first turn, so the yellow flags are out at the start-finish line. Let's take a look at the pass again. Here's Nigel setting himself up on Tracy. Slower cars just ahead.
Now you can watch. Nigel captured him, pushed him over, used the traffic to hold Tracy in, got right by, as you can see there, the white number 1. Nigel Mansell, hard way to pass, but he got it done.
So Nigel Mansell now sits in 2nd place. And Tracy has the obligation to catch up. Fittipaldi continues to wait station in 3rd. Robbie Gordon sits back. Fittipaldi is right station in 4th. And Robbie Gordon sits back in 5th.
And you notice Tracy has fallen back just a little bit, Paul, and that's because the track here is so fast that the aerodynamics mess up the wings behind and the guy behind. The problem Nigel was having before, Tracy is having now.
Almost like on an oval. And if you wonder why Penske is having such a great year, remember that his drivers from last year, Fittipaldi and Tracy, are currently running 3rd and 4th. Nigel Mansell would be leading this race were it not for Al Unser Jr., Penske's acquisition for this year. Al Unser, in my view, a man who combines the speed of Tracy and the experience of Fittipaldi, and you see him way out front defending the Penske honors right now.
All right, let's go to the pits now, and Jack.
Robbie Gordon, a tough break, passing under a yellow condition in a corner, has been issued a stop and wait penalty. 5 seconds are up. Gordon is away, and he lights the tires up. He is not at all happy with the penalty.
So Robbie Gordon suffers with that one. That'll take him down through the field.
Nobody ever likes the penalties here or at any rate.
Whoa! He just gathered that up. Gordon has had 3 spins during practice and qualifying. He almost added a 4th there. We've been riding on board with this man for 2 days, and it has been a heart-stopping, thrilling experience, as you just saw.
You know, Sam, if I had to analyze the whole weekend, we've watched him spinning out so many times, I think he's got a shock problem. The car seems to hold really well, and all of a sudden he hits some sort of a bump. The rear wheels jump right out from under it, and he spins out. But this is a good racetrack because you don't normally hit anything when you spin out.
The penalty cost him dearly. He fell down to 17th place just with that little 5-second stop and wait penalty. Here comes Nigel Mansell in, Jack.
It's his mark. Nigel Mansell hits his marks. The jacks go up. A very methodical stop for Newman Haas Racing. Not wanting to make a mistake, they're going to change all 4 tires, as is the norm. They do check the radiators, but taking an inordinate amount of time getting the fuel in. 14.2 seconds, believe it or not, gentlemen, is a slow stop nowadays.
Boy, did you like that burnout as he came out, though? During practice, there was this great battle between the Newman Haas team and the Penske team. Both of them lighting the tires and just roaring out of the pits with smoke pouring off of the tires. A little bit of an argument to show whether or not they had traction control, because the presumption is if they did, they wouldn't be able to do that, and both teams were doing it.
That's a good way to look at it, Paul. In fact, that's the best analogy I've heard of it. It will not do that with traction control, and they have no switches in the cars to turn it on or turn it off.
Let's say there are no switches that anybody can find. Let's take a look at he comes out of the pits here and lights them up. Another good way to get the rears hot. Also a good way to get the car sideways.
Al Unser Jr. is the first of the Team Penske cars to come in. His teammate Paul Tracy now will dart directly in front of him. Now, they're not going to make any changes on Al Jr.'s car. Their work is almost completed. In the interim, as Al Unser Jr. goes out, Paul Tracy will take a wing adjustment on the front wing. Watch for a twist, maybe a slight turn. There it is. They've completed their work. They'll go out and away now. We also received word, Paul, that Mario Andretti is the next guy to get a speeding ticket on pit road. He's being called back in for exceeding the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Well, you know, one of the things that's happening on that, Paul, is Andretti, for example, is at the far end of the pits, and those guys think down there, and they have been during the practice, immune from the radar detector that tells their speed.
Oh, they think they're beyond it.
Well, they think they're beyond it. That's what they've been doing, and they were getting by with it in practice, and I have a hunch that Card was able to catch up and catch him doing this.
So little Al in, Paul Tracy in, Nigel in, Emerson Fittipaldi picks up the lead of the race, but he comes in as well. And Gary Gerald waits for him.
We watch over the wall. Now we see the nose of the car. He's coming in hot, Paul. Doesn't have to lock it up. He hits the spot, and that is so important because of the length of the fuel hose, of course. Watching and listening now with the crew. No changes as far as wing setups on the front of the car. The Penske machine is off in 15.2 seconds.
And you talk about lighting the tires. Nice going, Mo. Again, the traction control question, at least there, has been answered.
Yeah, that's for sure. And again, these cars here don't have complete locked rear ends. That's where the left rear tire and the right rear tire turn the same speed as they do on an oval. Here, they run limited slips in the rear end. So that's the reason you see the cars a little bit snakier coming out of the pits than you do on an oval track.
You know, Bobby, one surprise that I had here this weekend is several people asked me about the power of the Mercedes engine in these cars. The word doesn't seem to have totally gotten out among all race fans that the Mercedes engine was good only at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and they are back to running the Ilmor engine.
Yes, they're absolutely running what is determined as to be the stock Ilmor. In other words, the standard engine that anybody can buy. The Mercedes engine, unfortunately, we'd all like to see it the rest of the year, but it's out of the business at least until Indianapolis next year.
So for the leader, Al Unser Jr., who reassumes the lead, 30 laps are now complete. The first round of pit stops is also finished. 85 laps, the scheduled distance here, 201.37 miles in the Budweiser Grand Prix of Cleveland, presented by Goodyear, and Al Unser Jr. is showing his incredible power of both himself and this remarkable Nigel Bennett chassis. What a great design it's been.
Let's keep in mind one thing. Little Al right there in the 31 car has back problems. His back is really hurting him. All of these bumps. Look what the car's going through there. It's really bothering his back a lot. And of course, from my standpoint, I hope it doesn't bother him during the race.
Paul, you mentioned Nigel Bennett, the designer of the Penske cars. I had a wonderful talk with him the other day. I congratulated him on the success of the season. He quickly said, remember, the season's just half over. There's a lot left to go. And I said, well, why are the cars so much better than they were last year? He said, first of all, they're only a little bit better, but my design philosophy is each year to eliminate another mistake that I made the year before. Try to make fewer and fewer mistakes. And really, in a sense, with this year's car, it seems that he's made really almost no mistake. Although in his mind, I'm sure there's some shortcomings that he'll improve next year.
Well, how perfect and how methodical. Al Unser Jr., an 8-second lead over the second place Nigel Mansell, followed by Fittipaldi, Tracy, and Alessandro Zampedri is moving up into the top of the order as well.
The first thing.
Most enduring corporate symbols, the Goodyear blimp. Here today to help us with coverage of the Cleveland Grand Prix presented by Goodyear. There she is in a gray sky and looking down on Mario Andretti, who took a sudden and quick spin actually over on the straightaway and then drove the car across the track and climbed out with damage to the left front. So we'll have to find out what caused the spin. It seems like it was contact with something or somebody.
Well, obviously his left front bent really bad, the suspension is, Paul, so he had to have contact with somebody, it would be my guess, especially the way it's bent.
Emerson Fittipaldi now closing on Nigel Mansell and has him in his sights. That's Mark Smith, who had a great qualification effort here today, just between them. Fittipaldi looking for a position alongside Smith. He's got him, and now he is in contact with Nigel Mansell in the battle for second place.
Remember, both Nigel Mansell and Emerson Fittipaldi, former world champions, but belonging to a different era in Formula One, more than 10 years apart, their championships, now racing almost wheel to wheel here in Cleveland.
You know, the one thing that Nigel wants to do, like right now with Emil breathing down his back like that, he wants to have just enough gap where these guys in front of him don't interfere with getting caught. In other words, that's how he was able to pass a little while ago, and he doesn't want to get caught in that. Look at all this traffic coming up. This is where things really change. Now, Emil's pressing hard to try to catch Nigel in a bad position right now.
It says something about Nigel's motivation, Bobby. Don't you think that even as talk seeps out through the press that he probably won't be doing IndyCar racing next year, he's still fully motivated to succeed wherever possible in the remaining races this year?
Oh, he's a thoroughbred, Tim. There's no question about that.
You know, and when you consider how good everyone says the Penske chassis is, look at the drive that Nigel's been involved in to keep the Lola configuration in a constant form of competition with the Penske's. It's either he or Gordon that's always running at the front. Now he's got some serious concerns on slower traffic in front.
I still think that the Lola chassis has to be too fine-tuned in order to stay where it's running right now.
We've got a battle going here. Nigel Mansell being charged. While we watch this, let's try and get an update on Mario Andretti's situation, Jack.
Well, Paul, for the last time in his driving career, Mario Andretti has come out of the cockpit in Cleveland. What broke on the car, Mario?
Nothing broke. Well, it broke after I got hit. The car number one just miscued there a little bit, and he hit me on the left front, and it broke the right. It broke the wishbone.
A tough break, but looking at the track conditions the way they are, what is your assessment of the change in the weather? How has it affected the cars?
Oh, everything for the better. I think everybody's going quicker. The times that we're running out there are almost qualifying times, so the tires and everything are just taking a big breather today.
A teammate of yours, Nigel Mansell, you say is the one that hit you. What do you say to him?
I'm sure he didn't want to do it, but could have been more careful, too.
Paul?
Well, got chunked by his own teammate, Bobby.
Well, I think it kind of shows you one thing, that teammates don't plan races out and teams don't tell who's going to do what during the race. I think that's kind of the proof of the pudding right there.
Well, Nigel Mansell now becomes a question mark on the line, sitting currently scored in second place. But if that damage happened to Mario's car, what kind of damage might Nigel have?
Well, not really probably going to have any damage because the rear is much stronger than the front. You can just see the mass in the rear compared to the front. And Mario said that Nigel hit his rear on Mario's front. Mario's the one that went away. Nigel's rear obviously is okay because he's still flying.
All right, but let me ask you something else. This track is rough. You've already said that. Physically rough. There's a lot of travel in the suspension here. In the past, it has damaged half-shafts and constant velocity joints in the rear suspension. Could this extra blow make a difference?
Not really to that, Paul, because the bumps are going to get the transmission and the drive shafts, the CV joints, as you mentioned, but it's really not going to get the suspension as much as you might think.
Boy, Nigel's really got his work cut out for him. That's Michael Andretti in the red car right ahead of him right now. Teo Fabi in the yellow car, one step up. He's got to get by both these men who are extremely aggressive and who are having their own battle before he can be sure that he's safely in front of Emerson Fittipaldi. Of course, he's dogging him.
And that's one thing they don't like to do. Those guys in the front that are having their own battle don't like to be bothered by somebody that's going faster than them.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of pride at stake.
All right, as we watch this battle, which is broken off for the moment, it gives us a chance to take a look at the confrontation between Mario and Nigel Mansell. And that's the bump right there.
So Nigel's first reaction was anger.
Yes,
he thought Mario pulled in on him, which I don't think was the case, but you can see how totally unintentional it was.
Yeah, that was a collision that, boy, there was a close one right there.
Well, this is a decisive moment because remember, you talked about Michael Andretti here in the red car on the right taking over the seat next year on Newman Haas from Mansell. So there's a lot at stake right here.
As Nigel moves under inside Michael. Boy, look at Michael. He's coming right back at him.
This is the great racing for which Cleveland is famous. Remember the battle between Emerson Fittipaldi and Nigel last year.
On board Michael. That's Nigel just ahead. Emerson's about 8 inches behind.
Now, Michael's going to try to keep up with Nigel, but I promise you, he's not in the same class. That car has not been as fast as Nigel, although you could see the killer instincts in Michael. As soon as he got past, boy, he really started going for it.
Well, Nigel, of course, is lapping Michael, so that's decisive as to the difference in speed of the cars. Notice that roughness as they go through those S-bends, though. Lap after lap after lap. If you're at the wheel, you're really taking a beating.
You know, Sam, that could be very well what's wrong with Michael. His speed has not been good for the whole weekend. And it just could be that he just can't seem to get that Renard chassis working through the bumps. If you can't work in the bumps here, you might as well just know you're going to have problems all day.
The Burke Lakefront Airport. For all weekends in the year except this, it is that, a general aviation airport. But today it's a race course for the Indycars, 2.3 miles around, 10 turns. 40 laps are now complete, and Al Unser Jr. is 18 seconds out in front.
You know, Paul, the one thing I've noticed about Nigel, we have an onboard camera, we watch him from the other cameras. He's trying harder today than I've seen him try in a long time, and he's been taking a lot more chances, bumping people, really trying hard. So that tells you how much advantage the Penske car has with little Al's.
Well, of course, one of the things is with Emerson Fittipaldi right behind Nigel, he has plenty of inspiration for going hard, and particularly for making difficult passes, and he's going to have to make two tough ones with Bosell and Gujamin right ahead of him on the road right now.
Now, neither one of those are going to give way because they're in a battle by themselves. And the other fear, of course, that Fittipaldi
he just wasted time there.
He wasted a great deal. Fittipaldi's problem is going to be that if Nigel gets past one of them, they may see Nigel, but they may not see Fittipaldi, so he's going to have to tiptoe.
It took Fittipaldi this whole time to reel Nigel in after Nigel made that good pass on Michael Andretti and another one on Teo Fabi. We saw that about 10 minutes ago, and it's taken that long for Emerson to reel him back in again. That's how important the passing is.
You know, I know there's a lot of talk about Nigel leaving the IndyCars. I hope that doesn't come to pass. It has been a real joy watching him here today. At this track a year ago when he and Fittipaldi went side by side, lap after lap, not giving any place on the course, literally side by side through every corner.
And if you leave it up to Emo, it's going to happen again, because Emo's really, look at Emo, how hard he's working on him, using every bit of drafting he can do, using every bit of advantage, trying to capture Nigel with the traffic. I mean, Emo's working as hard as you ever seen him work.
Meantime, though, Al Unser Jr. is pulling away, and one of the discouraging things for the opposition of Al Unser Jr. is that he starts fast, and he actually gets faster relative to the opposition as his tanks lighten. He was 17 seconds ahead a few laps ago. He's now up to 20 seconds ahead.
And that is that fight for 8th and 9th. Guzelmin and Boissel sitting just in front of them. Pit stops are due within a couple of laps here. So the pressure will be on the crew of this man. Now, if you want to talk team racing, this is when you see it the most. There's nothing he can do while he sits in the pits. But what can happen is they can lose precious time and distance on the race course if they take too long with a pit stop. So the Penske team, one of the best in the business at it, anticipating the stop of Al Unser Jr. here within a lap or two.
Well, you know, you speak of the quality pit work of the Penske team, and, you know, we've been talking about this almost as long as modern motor racing has existed. The Penske pit stop, it's alliterative, and you think, my gosh, they are the best. One of the reasons for that, I think, is the continuity in that team. Their mechanics stay with them year after year after year. A tradition is built up, and it's maintained.
As I watch little Al going around the corners, I see his tires literally coming off of the ground.
On board with Nigel, but he may have more problems than we think. He brushed the wall earlier. This was a lap earlier. Keep an eye on number 1 there.
Oh, look at that. That's
just
fire.
One
rear tire only, though.
That was fire, was a magnesium. The wheels are made out of magnesium.
And the leader, Al Unser Jr., is in the pits. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, direct your attention to the front of the car, the wing area. The word we've received is that Al Unser Jr. has requested a wing adjustment. After they complete their work, we'll look to see if they give him it. Looks as if they won't. They may have thought better of it. Stay with what you've got. In 13.7 seconds, a nominal, normal pit stop for Team Penske once again.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'd want to change something working that good.
Nigel, of course, has now had contact with Mario with his right rear wheel and with the wall with his left rear wheel.
That's both rear ends.
Would you want to be driving that car, Bobby? I don't know.
Maybe it's back in line now. So Al Unser Jr., the leader, makes his second stop. That gives the lead over to Nigel Mansell, but of course he is due in very shortly, as is Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, and the rest of the front of the order.
Now, the one you saw with Nigel going out and hitting the wall with his left rear, now I promise you, that could hurt something a little bit. When you saw all that magnesium flare up, it takes some pressure to do that.
But if it's only in the wheel, then this pit stop should cure the problem, right?
Yes, and they'll change that for sure, Paul, and it definitely hurt the wheel for sure.
Well, you're just in front of that wheel that is the question mark. Gary Gerald is waiting while the Newman Haas team is ready to do some repairs. Maybe they can button the camera down a little bit too. Gary?
They warned him of speed as he came down pit road. No problems. We can see where the left rear brushed the wall. Actually, they call it white walling the tire. Mansell, who ran in Formula One at France last week, said it was smooth as a billiard table. Said when he came to Cleveland, it was a real shock to the system. But in 14 seconds, he's back out, and no apparent damage to any of the suspension.
And I hope careful about the speed limit. His teammates suffered from that earlier. Jack?
Well, Paul Tracy gets out in the way as well. They made a wing adjustment on his car. He does not exceed the speed limit, at least according to the one that was posted. The only member of Team Penske left the pit.
Whoa. Michael Andretti down inside of Paul Tracy, Jack.
One of the things, Sam, that happens, you know, there is a right-hand turn as you exit pit road. You are literally high up on the throttle, and you find yourself weaving right into turn number 2. So it gets a little dicey coming out of the pits.
Well, exactly, Jack. We just saw some of the better racing of the day right there at that turn you described.
Emerson Fittipaldi in now, Jackaroo.
And Emerson Fittipaldi looking to make up time. The crew goes to work. We'll see if they make any adjustments on the machine or not. It looks as if it's going to be only tires. Rick Reineman and the team They check the radiators for debris, taking on a full load of fuel. They drop the jacks, and Emerson is away in 14.7 seconds. And he almost has a problem going out of pit road as he found traffic overcoming him on driver's right.
That was Guzman who came out along with Fittipaldi, and of course Al Unser Jr. will move back into the lead of the race, and Nigel Mansell and Fittipaldi will come out side by side in a battle for position.
There's Nigel right in front of, Emerson right in front of Nigel now, and maybe this is Nigel's best moment to get by him right there under braking.
Now, they didn't see that coming. Nigel was not expecting that. That was a total surprise to him. But boy, did he react at the next turn.
Isn't it amazing, given the number of variables in a pit stop, pulling in, getting the car stopped, having it all happen to your car, and then getting back out, that they resume exactly the way they left off.
Look at they come out now. Of course, Nigel is on a little warmer tire, so it's sticking a little bit better. First, he gets past, and then he comes right back and takes over the position.
And you notice how quickly Emo moved over into an aggressive position where Nigel had to go around him.
Emo did a good job there.
They both did.
So Nigel Mansell in a battle with Fittipaldi is back into second place. The leader is Al Unser Jr., and we are having a great time in Cleveland. As we look at beautiful downtown Cleveland, boy, I'll tell you what, we've had a great time in this city, and all that smoke belongs to Ari Lyondike, who rolled to a stop with what looks to be a turbocharger fire. No danger to the driver here on the front stretch. I'll tell you what, there is no such thing as a bad seat in the house here. Everybody gets to see everything.
Yeah, the whole racetrack is like that. Ari's fire, incidentally, is a turbocharger, like you said, Paul. And it's from an engine blowing, obviously. The oil gets in the turbocharger. There's really no fire left, but you can see it coming out of the pipe of the turbocharger. Not really hurting anything right there. It's just the oil from the engine that got up in there.
Too bad. Ari and his group, Regency Racing, were having a fairly good day, moving into the top 10 and very definitely in the fight.
I think it would have been a lot safer, of course, with the truck out there to have pulled that car off into the grass right there. That's a place where the cars come out of the turns, get really wide, and go right in the groove where he is.
Ari, of course, wants to run across the straightaway because it's the shortest distance to the pits, and the IndyCar safety people said, nah, I don't think so. Fifth place car, Jacques Villeneuve.
He's really one aggressive driver. The guy in the blue and white car, the player's car there, he's the most aggressive young man I have seen in years, Paul.
And easily, wouldn't you say, Bobby, the discovery of the season?
I think he's the discovery of many seasons that we've had.
Right.
I think he's really good.
He's leading in the Rookie of the Year points, leading Scott Sharp, who's also having a good season, but nothing as spectacular as this young man.
Top Reynard in the field right now, looking very solid. Just ahead of him is Willie T. Ribbs, the service merchandise car.
Willie is always good for a quote, and I asked him yesterday what it was like to drive around this track. He said, it's as bad as a rough night in Harlem.
Well, there's a good race driver in the Trans Am. Boy, Willie T was untouchable for a long time. Not done quite as well with the IndyCar. He's had a lot of different rides. There you see Villeneuve trying to get by Willie T. But he's going to catch on one of these days, and when he does, he's going to be as tough here as he has been in the Trans Am cars.
Do you think, in the case of Willie T, that as his teammate Robbie Gordon comes past trying to get his way back up through the field again, that all of that time in Trans Am cars may have hindered him, may have taught him techniques and styles that he's having trouble shaking now that don't apply to the Indy cars? I
totally agree with you, Paul, 100%. I think it's created bad habits for him, and I think he just stayed there a little bit too long. But I also know this, people, human beings, are capable of changing. One of these days, he's going to catch on, he's going to get the right signal, he's going to take off because he is one.
Whoa!
Emerson
locked him up totally as Fittipaldi.
That's turn one.
Misjudged the braking area in turn one, and now is falling backwards as he's got to get it back up to speed. That was costly. There's also a continuing display of smoke at the back of the car.
Yes, and that wasn't dust for a while. It was too much smoke.
And there is Paul Tracy behind him. Now remember, Tracy was running fourth behind Fittipaldi, and you see he's right on top of him now. There goes.
And Fittipaldi's got more than a brake problem. He's got an engine problem. I wonder if he wasn't sliding in his own oil.
He probably really was, because he's definitely got smoke coming out. And
let's look at it again here, Bobby. Here comes Emo into the braking zone.
Yeah, and here he is. He's awfully late. He's too late on the brake, and no smoke right now, though. Now we've got a lot of smoke coming down. Front tire's locking up, and there's smoke in the rear. You can see smoke now, and he's not to the turn yet. So obviously he's broken something. Could be the rear end.
There's more than one problem there, Jackaroot.
Well, Paul, believe it or not, Paul Tracy, his teammate, radioed into the crew to let them know that the rear end of the car was literally on fire. So they are calling Emerson Fittipaldi in right now.
Oh, no, he's not coming in. He stopped on the edge of the course. Black smoke poured out of the exhaust here. Fittipaldi's out of the car as they've put the fire out. He was in no danger with it.
You can see that dark gray smoke coming out of it. That's material burning, like carbon fiber, oil combination, but not steam from the engine.
All right, let me ask you the question then, Bobby. We talking circuit roughness? Is that something to do with the rear suspension of the car?
Well, I don't really think so. He could have had a transmission problem going. Most likely he had brakes overheating. This track is really hard on brakes.
71 laps now complete. 85 laps the scheduled distance here, 201 miles. Fight broken off for the moment. There comes Fernandez, the lone driver for the Gallus team, which in the past has been a multi-car team with such greats as Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. Danny Sullivan, by the way, is on the grounds here thinking about next year. One of the other drivers that constantly gets named for places like Newman Haas Racing. What do you think of that, Bobby?
Well, I really personally don't think Danny is going to be back. I think in his mind he's kind of retired, but you and I have a little bet on it, so we'll see how that comes out next year.
I think he'd like to be with Newman Haas, don't you?
Well, that might motivate a guy a little bit. Newman Haas is a pretty good team.
I was going to say, who wouldn't? Looking back for Stefan Johansson, that, of course, is not him. Stefan's just behind the 19 MyJack car.
The red and the blue car, Stefan Johansson. One heck of a good driver, and really been grinding hard today.
And another promising driver, Alessandro Zampedri, who's being just lined up now by Stefan Johansson. Zampedri on the right, bright young talent, I think, from Brescia, Italy, where the Mille Miglia used to start from. Zampedri, who I talked to, Gary and I both did at some length the other day, talked about his background in Formula 3000 in Europe and how he's making the adjustment to the Indy cars. You see, he's having a beautiful run against Johansson.
Johansson, of course, driving for Tony Bettenhausen, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Alumax, the sponsor on the car. Just behind them, you get a glimpse from time to time as Nigel Mansell closes in. Johansson runs in 5th place. He's having a marvelous day. You see Nigel right up in the corner of the screen there as we look down from the Goodyear blimp.
Johansson driving for car owner-driver Tony Bettenhausen.
Boy, this gives you an idea. It is truly an airport. There's runway 24 right. They come off onto the taxiways.
But you know, I gotta say again about Zampedri. Here's a car, and then the Johansson's making a bid. We'll see if this is a clean shot. Yep, he lets him go by. That's a nice, clean thing, not for position. Zampedri's running 10th, and it's not often that you see Dale Coyne's equipment running that far up front. Robbie Buell was their driver the early part of the season. He was usually mired down around 18th or 20th. So this is a real good day for Dale Coyne.
Well, Dale Coyne, who used to be a driver, Sam, I think he's kind of relates to the drivers pretty well.
You know, one of the interesting things about the Burke Lakefront Airport is it being a FAA runway airport facility. Naturally, there are a lot of planes landing here, so there's a buildup of rubber on what is already a fairly abrasive concrete straightaway for the Indy cars. And the guys the first couple of years were so surprised where they'd come sliding out and they'd hit that area where all the rubber had been laid down by the aircraft, and the car would just suddenly stick real good and launch ahead. So now they've made it part of the whole way that they race here at the Burke Lakefront Airport. So Al Unser Jr. is out in front now with 75 laps complete. He is dominating this race here.
Here's Teo Fabi. Now look at this combination. Fabi, of course, had a brilliant start in IndyCar racing back in 1983 when he had the pole for so many races, won several races. Now the word is this might be his last year in IndyCar racing. Apparently Jim Hall has tested a driver in secret, a young driver whose name has not been released yet, at Rattlesnake Raceway, Hall's private test track down in Texas. The idea is that Fabi may be on his way out. Now, Fabi had a brilliant 4th place at Detroit a few weeks ago. You see Al Unser Jr. coming by him with great ease there. I don't think there's any question. I don't think anyone, even within the team, questions Fabi's ability It's the idea of getting some new blood and reconstituting the team.
Dale Fabi runs in 9th place. In 10th place is Alessandro Zampedri. And Robbie Gordon, owing partially to driving and partially to attrition, is moving up. And Gordon now runs in 11th place. Michael Andretti, of course, retired. If you look at the running order 5 laps ago now. 81 laps now complete. We're in the closing stages of this race. Is this man going to do it again? Boy, it sure looks that way. But one can't forget, when you have an onset like Fittipaldi had that took him out of the race, if I'm in one of those other cars, Bobby, I got to be thinking, have I got the same engineering problem?
Well, they're evaluating that. I promise you, that's an advantage to having 1, 2, or 3 cars. There's a lot of disadvantages, of course, but that's one of the advantages. You have problems with one, you look at the other one. When Little Al came in her pit stop, they're obviously looking really close at the car so they can tell whether to slow down, keep its pace, or speed up.
Well, Penske domination has been the story of the season this year so far. But except for Al Unser Jr.'s performance today, the Penske team has not been dominant. Mansell has been very fast. Emerson Fittipaldi has had trouble. And unusually enough, Paul Tracy has not shown exceptional speed. He's third now. He's never been up front in this race. And it's only Al Unser Jr. that's really held the pace for Penske.
And normally you'd say this is Tracy's track.
One of the other things about running on an airport circuit, they will not let the IndyCar officials install the specialized computer antenna lines that sense the car's passage over the track. And so we don't have our usual EDS scoring here, back to the old manual scoring system. And so we're not able to bring in quite as many representations of the field as we would like to, but we are getting some great help from Russ Thompson and Fran Leonard, who have been keeping track of everything here in the booth for us and doing a superlative job in doing that. Money comes right here, guys, no problem at all. Al Unser Jr. out in front. Nigel Mansell runs in 2nd place, but it's a long way to go to get up to the front.
But you can see from the beating that the drivers take here that at any moment something can go wrong. A suspension part break.
Just watch Nigel's head right there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really getting a lot of beating. Looks like he's getting beat up pretty bad.
Airplanes, of course, have a lot more suspension travel than IndyCar.
Yeah, about 5 feet compared to 5 inches.
Just look at little Al's head go up and down those last bumps that he went through. Really a rough course. He'll be sore tonight.
And you say little Al is actually suffering from some back problems, but do any of you notice that when you're in the car?
Absolutely. He is so sore getting into it. They've already had to change his seat, Paul. He was doing that yesterday. I was down this morning popping his back. He's been down with the doctors while they've been working on it.
Jim Swintow with the white flag. 1 more lap to go for Al Unser Jr.
And he's up right behind Villeneuve, who is almost to get lapped, but of course it won't make any difference at this point in the race.
So Al Unser Jr. from the pole to a win here if he can only complete this lap, and that seems so very certain at this point. In a marvelous season for little Al.
Remember, this will make 5 out of 6 times that Al Unser Jr. has started from the pole and gone on to win the race.
You know, he's going to outdo us. He's going to outdo his father's record here, Dad, Big Al's record before too long, because he's winning an awful lot of races this year. He's already getting up with A.J. Foyt and my brother Al.
Now, your brother's one thing. He goes after your record. That's real trouble, right?
Terrible.
So Al Unser Jr. down the final long straightaway, looking at career win number 24 and the 5th of the year. A right, and then a left, and then a checkered flag lies in wait on the runways of the Burke Lakefront Airport. And Al Unser Jr. has taken his 5th win of the year and stretches his points lead in the IndyCar battle for the championship. Raul Boesel, Adrian Fernandez just behind him. A battle for 6th place. Can Fernandez get him before the line? The only battle left on the track as it turns for home.
It's going to be hard, but he's going to try.
Fernandez trying to catch up. Just a few hundred feet to go. He might be able to get it done.
Don't think he's going to do it, Paul.
Now, comes off the corner with a valiant effort and really swings out to try and get all the momentum he can, but he can't catch Raul Boesel, so they finish Unser Jr., Mansell, Paul Tracy in 3rd, Jacques Villeneuve, Stefan Johansson, Raul Boesel, Adrian Fernandez, Mauricio Gugelmin, and Teo Bobby.
You know, I think the biggest thing that's going to help little Al so far this season is this race, because this is the race where he won and Emil fell out. That's where he really makes a gain on the points.
All right, take a look at this. 1-1. What a play on words. Starting on the pole, finishing first. 5th time in his career.
And only once did he not accomplish that feat, and that was at Australia several years ago when he finished first, started first and finished 4th. It's interesting, all 4 winners from the pole at Cleveland have been driving for Roger Penske. Sullivan, Fittipaldi, Tracy, and Al Unser Jr. now. Al
Unser Jr., when he is hot, he is sizzling.
So Al Unser adds another win to his 1994 tally, which takes it to 5. Nigel in second shows that the Penskes can be taken, beating Paul Tracy into third. A notable 4th place for Jacques Villeneuve further stakes his claim for Rookie of the Year and a return to form for Stefan Johansson. But a failure to finish for Fittipaldi means Unser is now 40 points clear at the top of the table. Nigel leaps to 3rd place.